religious liberty.
Nations that had more religious freedom had better democracies.
We've taken the First Amendment, and that has been our cornerstone. It's to defend the rights of people of faith.
We not only hold our government accountable, but we hold other governments accountable.
A ministry moment on the Dove.
All men, all the rest of the world, we have two sources of light to bring us to Jesus and into a relationship with God. First, all men have the outward voice of creation, the light of creation. Let me read to you. This is Psalm 19, verses 1 to 4. It says, "The heavens tell about the glory of God. The skies announce what his hands have made. Each new day tells more of the story, and each night reveals more and more about God's power. You cannot hear them say anything. They don't make any sound we can hear, but their message goes throughout the world. Their teaching reaches the ends of the earth." So earth and sky and the heavens and the seas, all of creation, all of nature speaks of the fact that there is a creator, and all men have that light.
A ministry moment on the Dove.
You're watching the Dove TV, encouraging and informative for San Rafael and the North Bay. Seen on KQSL 17 and these Dove TV affiliates.
Well, good morning to you. Happy Wednesday. Welcome to Mornings on the Dove. I am Donald Duck's right-hand man here.
Quack, quack. Good morning. Good morning.
Yeah, gone from waiters down to, tennies again.
Hey, you got to be quick in the morning.
There you go.
Keep moving.
All right, and the water's below the bridge, huh?
Oh, thank you, Lord. Yes, indeed. Some minor repairs going on to make it easier to get on and off, but we are bridged. We are moving across it, and the water keeps receding, so answer to prayers.
Wonderful.
Yeah.
Wonderful all the way around. Well, good morning to you. This is the last day of winter.
Well, that's right.
Today is the last day of winter, so I don't know if you want to go out and have a snow party. And there's plenty to do that with. We'll talk about that.
Yeah.
Anyway, good morning to you. Happy Wednesday. A lot going on in the news. There always is, and we'll get caught up on that. Big stuff yesterday.
Oh, yeah.
What's going on?
Well, it's the last day of winter, so go out and play in the backyard. It is National Backyard Day, celebrating a day that, we've transformed spaces and places. We call our oasis. It is our backyards, and, sometimes backyards get a little out of control. Especially coming in. We have that thing going on right now where stuff's starting to grow.
Yeah.
And in fact, grass is starting to grow, and weeds.
If it's green, it's ground cover.
Okay, it's ground cover. Ground cover is starting to grow.
Yeah.
Bring it on. All right, National SBDC Day, Small Business Development Centers, recognizes the thousands of SBDCs across the country supporting entrepreneurs in the pursuit of small business ownership. I'm not familiar with them. SBDCs. I don't know them.
Well, it's a nice way of saying small business.
Okay.
And still the #1 employer in America.
Well, that's true. That's right. Okay. So our hats off to you. A National 3D Day. It explores the technology used to create 3D photographs, movies, and art. Have you ever sat in a theater with 3D glasses on?
Yeah.
Yeah, I have too. In fact,
it's probably the only time I got motion sickness.
There was a character, they used to do a skit on SCTV, and John Candy, who has passed years ago, it was so funny because they always stopped at one point, and he would look at the camera, and they were doing 3D. They were pretending that, and he would go,
Oh, gosh.
and you're like going, oh, no. Okay, and then you may need a nurse because it is National Certified Nurses Day, celebrating the certified nurses who impact lives every single day. And if you have a nurse in your family, and we do, I have a sister who's a nurse. She turns into the medical expert, and she consults us all the time.
Well,
that's your first call when something's going wrong. It's like, Christy, what's this mean?
Well, aren't they basically a shadow MD?
Pretty much so, I think. Yeah, I think you're right.
Yeah.
So,
especially if the nurse, does your sister have the degree where she can prescribe medicine?
I don't know. She's never prescribed anything for me.
Oh, really? No wonder you're not healthy.
The only thing she has prescribed for me is laugh, because it is National Let's Laugh Day.
All right.
They say that laughter is the best medicine.
Yes,
and this is the day to take your medicine.
All right.
Studies have shown that laughter may boost your immune system, relieve tension, and help you relax. And who doesn't need any of these things in a busy, hectic world? And the next time you're stuck at a red light and it turns green and the person in front of you is slow, take a breath.
Yeah, relax.
Yeah, relax. Chill, man. Also, National Poultry Day.
Really?
No foul moods or ruffled feathers today.
Oh, really? Or do you hug a chicken?
Or a rubber chicken. I don't know.
Yeah.
Kick off the day with eggs and turkey bacon for breakfast around lunchtime. Serve an open-faced turkey avocado sandwich.
Yes.
And then finish with the day with a good old-fashioned fried chicken dinner.
Yes.
How about that?
All right.
And then for dessert, you can have National Chocolate Caramel Day. A great combination. Enjoy chocolate and caramel in your favorite candy bar, ice cream, or dessert. It'll put a smile on most people's faces, and the combination also invokes some cravings for chocolate caramel coffee milkshakes, or just about any treat with this hard-to-resist combination, and there could be nothing wrong with that.
Well, again, just go to C's and get the double caramel.
Hot dog.
Okay. But I will say, Peggy made some Heath Bar cookies last night.
Oh, did you bring any?
No.
Come on, man.
No, but it's kind of like potato chips.
Oh, yeah.
And you can't have those without a glass of milk.
Oh, yeah.
They're kind of crunchy and gooey.
Sound wonderful.
Yeah, they're good stuff.
All right, enjoy.
All right, 1:30. Well, let's see. What's the other days here, National?
We got all kinds.
3D Day.
3D Day, Nurses Day. Let's laugh.
Oh,
Day.
laugh.
Let's laugh.
Well, this guy.
Oh, no.
We laugh at him all the time because he's trying to be a meteorologist.
Washington, rain likely with daytime high temperatures near 54 in Vancouver, Portland, and Wilsonville. Rain and patchy fog in McMinnville with a high near 52. Moving down the Willamette Valley with rain likely mainly after 11 a.m. and low to mid-50s for Salem, Albany, Corvallis, and Eugene with a light south wind and lows in the upper 30s to low 40s. In Central Oregon, mostly cloudy and low 50s in Prineville. A chance of snow, then rain and snow in mid to upper 40s in Bend and Sun River. Over in Boise, Idaho, mostly sunny with a high near 52. Rain with gusty winds along the Oregon coast with daytime highs in the low to mid-50s for Coos Bay, Port Orford, Brookings, and Crescent City, California, with the southeast wind gusting up to 55 miles per hour. In southern Oregon, rain likely after 11 a.m. and breezy with daytime highs near 56 in Grants Pass and Medford and 53 in Ashland. In the Klamath Basin, snow with gusty winds and a high near 47. Into northern California, a chance of rain and breezy with a high near 50 in Wairika and 56 in Redding. A slight chance of showers in near 59 in Chico and partly sunny in low 60s in Sacramento. In the Bay Area, early patchy fog, then a chance of rain in near 58 in Santa Rosa. Areas of fog, then mostly cloudy in near 59 in Napa. Increasing clouds in upper 50s in San Francisco. And today in San Jose, patchy fog, then partly sunny and 65. It's a look at your Wednesday weather on the Dove.
Okay, and I think that's just wind throwing some snow around.
Yeah, it looks like it, doesn't it?
Yeah, and but beautiful day on the hill, but no open today. But you can tell they've been working the hill.
Yes, they have. They've been grooming, and they got a lot of grooming to do because I think they got a lot of snow to push around up there.
Yeah.
But boy, are we going to have enough to the end of the season.
There you go. And 2 extra weekends.
And 2 extra, oh yeah, enjoy. Well, this is interesting because we know that Peter went through quite a change, and Anne Graham Lotz is here to contrast the change that the Holy Spirit made in Peter in just 50 days from Jesus' crucifixion to Pentecost, and what he wants to do for
He's
you.
at Pentecost after he's received the Holy Spirit. And he stands up, and in that same audience were some of the Sadducees and the Pharisees who had condemned Jesus to death, and some of the Roman soldiers who had nailed him to the cross, and some of the very same people that shouted, "Crucify him, crucify him." And Peter gets up and says, "This Jesus of Nazareth whom you have crucified is both Lord and Christ. He's the Messiah. You have just crucified your Messiah." And they were cut to the quick, and they said, "What must we do to be saved?" And he said, "You repent of your sin, and you'll be baptized, and you'll be forgiven." And they did, and they were, and the church was born. But look at the difference in Peter. And when he was arrested and beaten and told not to preach the name of Jesus, he said, I can't help but say and speak the things I've seen and heard. You can turn me loose. I'm going to go right back to preaching. And he did. And do you see the difference? And the Holy Spirit can take someone like me, timid and shy and whatever, and put me up here. He can take you and put you across the street with your neighbor. He can take you and talk to the coworker, or, just let him loose in your life. Surrender everything to him. Let the Holy Spirit take over. In this politically correct culture, we need to name the name of Jesus and not be intimidated by the opinions of other people.
Amen.
Well, there you go.
Yeah.
Good stuff all the way around. Thank you, Ann. Excuse me, 9 minutes past the hour. I take a look at some of the top stories of our Wednesday. Actually, was from yesterday. And yes, they're home. Barry Butch Wilmore and Suni Williams, along with one of the other astronauts and the gentleman from Russia, all came home. And this was an amazing thing. I watched it. I just sat there with my jaw open. Mm-hmm. And SpaceX went up and got them. And there they are inside the capsule in their SpaceX Tesla suits. Yeah. And the perfect splashdown.
Yeah, yeah.
And about an hour later, they were getting them out of the capsule. The whole thing was just absolutely made for a movie.
It was, yeah. And there's a plot line with some controversy in it, too.
Well, I have a piece here that's pretty interesting. Judge Jeannie Pirro from The Five, kind of in her response, because yesterday, as all this was happening and the astronauts were being taken out, and more is coming out, especially with astronaut Wilmore and Williams, the two that went up for a weekend visit and got caught for 9 months.
Yeah.
They weren't really medically and I think emotionally prepared to be there that long.
Oh, yeah.
And they're saying there is some bone issues because...
Oh, what? Because they're there a long time, yeah.
And they're floating. There's no exercise.
Right, there's no gravity.
There's some vision issues and stuff like that.
Oh, okay.
Okay, so, I mean, they're going to be okay.
Right.
But the point being is that there's some... Now, for the life of me, why are the Democrats against this?
I don't know. It is just... You know why? Because Elon Musk's involved and Donald Trump's involved, period.
Okay, so I'm flipping across the dials yesterday.
Yeah.
And two networks weren't even covering it.
Of course not, yeah.
And I'm thinking... I thought there was a Donald Trump hatred syndrome. Now there's an Elon Musk hatred syndrome.
Absolutely. It has emerged strong.
Okay, so Judge Jeannie on The View, on The Five yesterday, in about a minute and a half, she explains the problem, and here it is.
The whole thing is a metaphor for everything that we've seen in the last 4 years, where Donald Trump has to come in and clean everything up. Whether it's the border, whether it's what's going on in Ukraine or, in the Middle East, Donald Trump is coming in and he's making sure that he's fixing things. But this whole thing is on par with the left's obsession with Trump derangement syndrome that we talked about the other day. The Musk derangement syndrome is like a variant of the Trump one. And even though these astronauts, there's no question that they have suffered some physical deficits as a result of being out in space for 9 months, whether it's bone loss, some muscle loss, the atrophying, the fact that their vision is impaired and their gut is impaired and all that we'll talk about later. But that Elon Musk had offered to bring them home. And the optics of the left are so vicious, so hateful, that they would prefer to leave these people up there with the inept Biden administration, with Boeing. And I've said before, if it's Boeing, I ain't going. I mean, that you've got whistleblowers who are dying unnaturally within days of giving evidence against Boeing. And now, even the astronauts are saying, we're immensely grateful. And I love that they said, we have immense joy for what they're doing. Remember the Democrat, their whole premise was, we're going to bring joy and unity. You brought everything but. Thank God for Musk and thank God for Donald Trump.
Wow.
I think that encapsulates the deal. Now, I'm flipping around yesterday on the story. I was so I was so taken by watching this. It reminded me of the days when they first went up and they came down in these capsules.
Yeah, yeah.
And they were falling in the water.
Right,
And
yeah.
helicopters were swarming around.
Yeah, yeah.
Well, Elon Musk puts together not only the capsule, but the rocket.
Yeah.
He goes up there and gets them and brings them home. And because it's him,
Right.
the left is coming unglued. And I thought, you guys have lost your minds.
And I didn't realize that he had offered the Biden administration earlier to go up and get them. He said, we could have gotten them before. And they said no. And it boils down, they said no because they didn't want Musk to be the rescuer? Are you kidding me?
Well, the other thing about this, I was really taken, because I started watching it here before I went home. Then I finished watching it home late yesterday afternoon. And they actually recovered. But as the capsule was literally coming from outer space into the Earth's atmosphere, into the water,
Yeah.
they had a bunch of NASA scientists on, yakking away. You know how you do it. We do it all the time. Broadcasts called field time.
Yeah. Oh, commentary.
Yeah, commentary. We call it.
That's it.
We call it "Don't have any dead air." And so anyway, they're talking. Two separate NASA scientists said this is a no-brainer. We should be using SpaceX.
No kidding. Is that right?
And so, in other words, I don't know if they're locked into the Boeing contract.
I don't know what. Yeah, yeah.
And given the business acumen of President Trump, he probably will cancel the contract, or I don't know if he can. I don't know what the deal is.
You know what was impressive again was when they sent this rocket up, when they went up to get them, they then brought that booster stage back down that gets caught. I watched a replay of that yesterday, and people that sit and watch that, they just absolutely erupt with applause when that thing is captured again. We've never seen anything quite like this technology.
No, and the question is, how long have we had this technology, but because of government contracts and bureaucracy, we couldn't exercise it?
Oh, I wonder.
But the point being is, and then I'm watching, I have to do this, not that I want to, but so that you and I don't sound really stupid.
Oh. Thanks, man.
I do watch other things.
Okay.
And I'm watching Chuck Schumer on The View.
Oh, gosh.
Okay.
Oh.
And I thought, if you had to go to The View to get rescued as a Democrat, but he didn't get rescued, he got pounded on.
He got smashed, yes.
And I'm going, my, this is a new day. The left is in a tailspin and it just can't snap out of it.
And you know what?
And they're sitting there and they cannot give appreciation to Musk for going up there and getting these people.
How could they? I mean, absolutely. And isn't it interesting, now that Chuck Schumer is on the decline in the eyes of the left, who is being floated as his replacement?
AOC.
AOC. Can you imagine that? Oh, man.
Well, the only thing I think you have to, if you step back and look at this, and what's interesting to me is the left still gets headlines for their decline.
Right. Right.
The left headline is they're going down, and they're getting a lot of publicity for it.
Yeah.
But if Schumer is going to go out and AOC is going to replace it, that tells me the far left, radical left, is still in control of the party, and it'll just continue to sink.
Yes.
There's so many opportunities for the left to snap out of it, but they choose not to.
Yeah, yeah.
So it's pretty interesting. All right, well, the other story yesterday, what's so interesting about this story is nothing's come of it yet. And that is yesterday, 80,000 pages of the JFK assassination files were released. They're saying it's roughly 1,123 redacted documents for a total of 80,000 pages. I thought by now there would be headlines on this, and there isn't.
Right.
And I'm going, what does this mean?
Yeah, what does it mean?
I don't know.
Yeah.
And so I think what it is that there's a lot of reading here, and it's got a lot of cut and pasting going on here.
Yeah.
But the 80,000 pages concerning the JFK assassination was released yesterday, and I'm just surprised this morning we don't have headlines on this.
Yeah, well, obviously somebody's got to pore over all of this to see if there is a smoking gun in there, and apparently they haven't seen that yet.
Yeah, that's the only conclusion I can come up with.
Yeah.
All right, so, and then you have RFK's coming, and you have Martin Luther King coming.
Right.
So there's a lot of stuff there coming out.
Yep.
Here's the question. If there's nothing there, then why were they kept secret?
Yeah, that's a great question. Yeah.
So there's got to be something there.
You would think.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So we'll have to wait and see. All right, so much for that. We're gonna go get a little jet fuel. We'll be right back.
ready for fun at Rogue Ski Shop Think Snow Sale. Boulder Gear clothing now 20% off. Goggles, adults starting at $29, kids starting at $26. All Scott gloves 20% off. If you ski or ride, it's time to slide into Rogue Ski Shop Medford.
If this is what ministry is, God, I want nothing to do with it because this is too much for me. I just said, okay, I'm done. I'm going to do me when I want to do me. And that was the moment then that I would say is when I just shut the door on Jesus.
She went ice cold toward God. She went ice cold toward me.
I can't keep living this lie. And so I am just praying for brokenness.
Watch the 700 Club Wednesday morning at 11 on the Dove TV.
A ministry moment on the Dove.
These are people who are saved, but they don't live like they're saved. In fact, you can't tell the difference between their lifestyle and that of the average non-believer. They are carnal Christians. I'm here to tell you, no such category of Christians exists today. No permanent category. Yes, Paul says in 1 Corinthians 3 that sometimes Christians act carnally. They act as people in the flesh, but that is not a permanent, acceptable condition for somebody who claims to be a follower of God. There are not three kinds of people in the world, there are just two. Those who follow Christ and those who disobey Christ. Those who take Christ's words seriously and obey them, and those who reject Christ's words, either openly or in their own heart while they mouth something else. The test of our faith is whether or not we obey Christ. Our commitment to the cause of Christ reflects our commitment to Christ.
A ministry moment on the Dove.
Welcome back. 20 minutes past the hour on this last day of winter. Tomorrow's the first day of spring.
Hot dog.
Boing.
Boing, yep.
So we'll see what happens. So we're on the time now where the days are getting longer. Mm-hmm. Till about June 22nd, somewhere in there. Then they start getting shorter.
Yeah.
All right, so good stuff. Well, listen, you know the big fire map in Oregon.
Oh, come on.
It's called the Wildfire Hazardous Map. Okay. Well, apparently it's March 10th was the last day to file deadlines to submit appeals against the map. And as you know, they had some town hall meetings in our area. And as a result of the forest fires, the wildfires that we've had in our state over the last year or so, they come up with this arbitrary map. Mm-hmm. And then if you live in this certain area, basically you're in a hazardous area, and that triggered, well, you lost your insurance. If you lose your insurance, then the bank can call for your note. And, and the whole thing was just crazy in an attempt to create some kind of a jurisdiction of who lives where. Mm-hmm. Well, anyway, there's a lot of opposition. The House and the Senate Republicans are now continuing to push back against this bill, and apparently it's getting traction. The governor is thinking about not doing it, and House Bill 3944 would rescind the map and the extreme regulation it places on landowners and homeowners. Now, folks, think about this. This came from that guy right there, Senator Jeff Golden, initially came up with this map as a result of what happened through the Alameda fire. Now, it was a different version that we see here, but he was the one he was the proponent pushing this, okay? And in pushing it, he basically said, no, it won't change your insurance, it won't do it. Well, it did just the opposite. So people are being asked to, now listen to this. Are you sitting down? Mm-hmm. People are being asked to trust the map that doesn't consider what's on their property.
Oh, yeah.
It's insulting to their intelligence. Yeah. You know who said that?
Who?
Senator Jeff Golden. The architect of the map is criticizing the map. This is the hugest callback I've ever seen. Yeah. And he is the one that from the very beginning started pushing this thing. Now, the good news is, thank you, Senator Golden. Maybe you are coming to your senses on this. Yeah. And he since he was the architect of the original idea, maybe his disdain for it now will be the one thing that the governor needs to pull it back. But I've never seen a turnaround like this, if not hypocritical.
Absolutely. And, you want to hear something that's crazy? I have been contacted by my bank during the loan process that I needed to get flood insurance because I was in the floodplain. Well, now, you know, we just gone through a big flood situation.
Yeah.
And you're right. If I didn't get flood insurance, they were going to, you know, call in my note.
Call your note.
Absolutely. So we fought that, and we showed them that we were up on a hill, we're elevated. If we get flood, you know, if we have a flood at our front door, it will be a flood of biblical proportions, and Shady Cove and most of Medford, and we'll be gone. Yeah, be gone. So we fought that one, and now we get this fire map. So now we're in danger of banks calling notes for insurance issues on a fire map. So which is it? I mean, how do you fight something like this?
Well, look, this is nothing more. This is liberal candy bars.
Yeah.
Because they want to do anything to get more control of your life.
Mm-hmm.
This has nothing to do with wildfire management. Wildfire management means you go in after these places and you clean them up.
Mm-hmm.
Wildfire management is you give homeowners a recommendation that the insurance company would buy as far as having clearback from your house.
Right.
So an agent can come out and take a look at your house, and if you meet those, you're going to continue to get insurance.
Right.
Okay?
Yeah.
That should be the issue. But to put a map over the top of us that just set a wildfire, pardon the pun, through the insurance industry and through bank industry was just crazy.
Yeah.
There is no need for this map.
Yeah. Right.
There's no need for this map. The only thing you need to do is implement recommendations for people to meet minimums and keeping their property clean and clear.
Absolutely.
That would satisfy the bank and the insurance company.
And a lot of this boils down to some basic common sense.
Yeah, this is to me so amazing. This tells me, folks, be encouraged here.
Okay.
The pushback was so good.
Yeah.
The pushback was so good that the liberal who came up with it has to stop and rethink it.
Rethink it. All right.
Hallelujah.
Hallelujah, indeed.
All right, let's take a look at the satellite image. Good morning to you. Oops, what's going on here?
No, we got a little bit of moisture today and tomorrow. About 60% chance today and 70% tomorrow, with daytime highs today in the mid-50s. Back down to 50 tomorrow, but then you're looking at low to mid-50s as we go into the weekend, and then Sunday it starts to climb, and we're going to see mid-60s and then mid-70s on Monday. And are you ready for this? Tuesday, here in the Rogue Valley, they're calling for a high of 78 degrees.
78?
78. Whew. Brace yourself. Spring is...
Hey, so let me ask you this. Is next week officially spring break for
Oregon? Yes. Yep.
Wow.
So it's going to be warm weather. Kids are going to be on the streets. Be careful out there.
Waddy-ta.
Yeah.
You know, I looked on the Dove employee calendar out there.
Uh-oh. Yeah?
Gosh. I think you know what I'm going to do?
What?
I'm going to get fired from this place and come back as an employee.
Hey, the bennies are pretty good, aren't they?
Well, and I'm going to put my name on the calendar up there.
All you do is you just write your name and then draw a line through the week.
Gosh.
And put out next to your name. Perry, out.
Yeah.
That's it.
I'm going, okay.
That's how you do it.
So I think I'm going to have to bring Piper in to help me do the show next week.
And
that's my dog.
You know, I could be replaced. Thanks a lot,
she's
man.
much cuter than you.
Yeah.
Okay, go ahead.
Okay. Well, it was an interesting phone call that took place between Donald Trump and Vladimir Putin. And, of course, we're all, you try to analyze and dissect what's going on, but Brigadier General Blaine Holt reacted to the phone call between Trump and Putin as reportedly they've agreed on an energy infrastructure ceasefire for 30 days, and he's got some comments about what Zelensky should see in this.
You know, I think a lot of us in this who watch this stuff, we were a lot more hopeful that there'd be a little bit more comprehensive nature to it. It does look like they're really kind of nailing down where they've got alignment, especially in the maritime spot and the power and infrastructure. It's so critical that those things are done. I know that the president also talked about the trapped soldiers and trying to get things wound down. So this is a mighty start. This is very good that the two are talking, but there's still so many details. And now there's enough out there for either Ukraine or the Europeans to really either balk at or get behind and support. The NATO peacekeeper thing is going to be a stick point with the EU, but for the Russians, that is absolutely off the table. President Trump is getting his outcome. He's saving as much of Ukraine as he can. He's stopping the killing. But in this 30-day period of time, if everybody respects that, we have a mighty pull that we have to do to get across the line to a lasting peace. I think the ball is in his court, and honestly, his country needs his leadership right now. He needs to stand up and find where he can find some goodness in this, because if it's just all rejection, there are no better ideas coming out of the EU that would be helpful. Money and weapons hasn't gotten this done for 3 years, and there is no military solution in front of anybody.
Mm-hmm. Interesting.
So President Trump's been criticized for being buddies with President Putin.
Right.
Okay. Do you remember when President Reagan met with Gorbachev, and they had the blow up?
Yep, in Iceland.
In Iceland, and they walked away from the deal.
Yes.
All right, and they come back and they make a deal. Okay, and then Gorbachev leaves office.
Yeah.
And where does he end up living?
San Francisco, didn't he?
Yeah, at the Presidio.
Yes, yeah.
All right, so he's in San Francisco. He spends most of his remaining days of life there.
Yeah, yeah.
Do you know what triggered him to go there?
No.
When the deal was done, President Reagan brought presidents in shopping centers.
Oh, God.
Do you remember that?
Yeah, yeah.
And he all of a sudden began to see the Western lifestyle and what was happening and how happy people were and what was at his fingertips and what democracy really is and what freedom really is and all that. And what did he want to do when he left office? He wanted to live in that environment.
Interesting. Yeah,
okay?
Yeah.
I'm wondering if President Trump isn't trying to get President Putin to see the same thing. Now, Putin is hardcore KGB.
Right.
He's got a hard side to him.
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
Does he want to go out with being a killer and a dictator?
Interesting, yeah.
I'm wondering if he is saying to Putin, look, we can make your company rich again, or your country rich again.
Yeah.
Get off of China and get on America. I wonder if he's trying to get in the middle of the China-Russia deal and make it America-Russia deal.
I wonder. That's an interesting
I think there is a part of Trump that is trying to think about this, to put a wedge there, to wean him off of China, which is nothing more than dictator versus dictatorship.
Yeah.
And sooner or later, they're going to be against each other because both want the same thing, power.
Yeah, and they traditionally have been at odds through the centuries.
Yeah.
So, yeah, there's been
here comes
animosity.
America.
Yeah.
We'll buy your oil.
Yeah.
You lift the ban, and our companies will come back to Moscow and St. Petersburg and set up shop again. McDonald's will come back, and Starbucks will come back. All this stuff that the Russian people want.
Right, and lost. Yeah, right.
I'm just wondering in the back of my mind if that isn't part of them. Over here on Ukraine, I understand Ukraine didn't invade itself.
Yeah.
Okay. But Zelensky, in some ways, is a hero. In some ways, he's kind of a goofy guy. He's not to be trusted.
Right, right.
So I don't know where the line is in there.
Well,
but he's going to have to give up something.
Yeah, I think so. Yeah.
He's in a spot now. If he doesn't give it up, then I think there will be some kind of a revolution in the country.
Well, the general brought up a couple good points there. First of all, there can really be no military solution in this.
No.
There won't.
No, it's just bodies on the street.
Right. And the other thing that he brought up is the fact that nothing happened from the EU. Remember the EU?
Yeah.
They decided after the spat in the Oval Office between Zelensky and Trump, they were going to broker a deal. How long did that last?
They have nothing to offer.
Right.
The pound's worth nothing.
Right.
not the pound, the euro.
Oh, the euro, right.
They got nothing. What are they going to do? They can't even fund NATO.
Right, and then that brings up the inconvenient truth, the fact that the EU spent more money on Russian oil during this conflict than they have in supporting Ukraine.
You know, it's, well, anyway, there's a lot of commentary there. But anyway, let's see what happens.
Okay.
You know, today is what day? What is
It's the last day before spring.
No, but it's chocolate.
Chocolate is chocolate and caramel. And what else that's about it. Oh, yeah, poultry. It's raw chicken and chocolate and caramel.
I'll tell you what. Let's go to Chick-fil-A today.
Oh, that's an idea.
Yeah, a great Christian family owns both of these here. They're great people.
Yep.
So go to a Chick-fil-A today and have some extra chicken.
I'm in.
We're bad. We'll be right back.
Big ideas grow.
Welcome to Rise Direct Primary Care. Imagine a healthcare experience where you're known by name, cared for like family, and treated with compassion. How is that possible? With an affordable, flat monthly membership, you receive unlimited primary care and minor urgent care visits. No insurance needed. At Rise Direct Primary Care, we offer a friendly, affordable healthcare experience where you get a whole hour with your provider. Located in Central Medford and accessible by phone or text, we can typically get you in the same or next day. We prescribe urgent care medications directly from our office, saving you a trip and wait time at the pharmacy when you'd rather be at home getting better. Personalized medical care with a human touch. Rise Direct Primary Care is all about healing the sick with compassion and keeping the healthy healthy. Rise Direct Primary Care. We're here for you. Visit risehealthdpc.com or call or text us 541-827-8603. 541-827-8603.
The Dove is touching lives across our network and around the world.
Focus today was outstanding. I'm so proud and grateful that the Dove is willing to share these interviews. A huge thank you to Perry for his exceptional work getting prepared and asking very insightful questions. Well done, and thank you for sharing the truth.
Let us know if the Dove has touched your life. The Dove TV, encouraging and informative. Support the Dove at thedove.us.
Hey, how you doing out there? Happy last day of winter.
Yeah.
You know, it's kind of interesting. We had an early winter, then we had a no winter.
Yeah, in
Then we got a
January.
late heavy winter.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
Anyway, today's the last day of winter. That's okay. You know, we've got a lot of snow. And next week's going to be spring break in Oregon. And snow everywhere.
Yeah, snow everywhere. And it's going to really be spring. It's going to be summer-like, actually, on
That's
some
wonderful.
days. So, yeah.
All right. Well, so I was just thinking, I know we're going to go to CBN Newswatch here in a minute, but I was thinking today is, was it Feather Day or Poultry Day or what is it?
Poultry Day, yeah.
So we were talking about Chick-fil-A.
Yes. Yes.
Quite a variety there.
Oh, yeah.
Do you like barbecue chicken?
Yep, I like it all.
Well, then you have to go to Sweet Tea to get that.
Oh, yeah. Oh,
right down the street here.
Now you got me conflicted.
Well, he has those. You ever seen his little outdoor barbecue thing?
Mm-hmm.
Or smokers?
Yeah, the smokers,
Yeah.
yes.
He had one that looked like an engine off a train.
Mm-hmm. Oh, yes.
But he smokes his own chicken and brisket and stuff.
Uh-huh.
But so if it's poultry day, get the smoked chicken sandwich.
Ooh.
But if you're in a hurry, go to Chick-fil-A. If you're Jerry,
it's hard to concentrate on stuff in the day here when we got this food thing going on.
All right, there we go.
Yeah.
All right, good morning to you. Let's check in with CBN Newswatch.
This is CBN Newswatch.
Well, we begin in Israel, where Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu has declared the rules of negotiating with Hamas have changed. Netanyahu now says hostage talks will only be held, quote, under fire. CBN Middle East Bureau Chief Chris Mitchell brings us that story from Jerusalem.
Netanyahu announced the new rule is designed to achieve the goals of the war.
The release of all our hostages, the elimination of Hamas, and the promise that Gaza will no longer pose a threat to Israel.
Israel's message to Hamas, unless more hostages are released, the attacks won't stop.
And if it does not immediately release all the kidnapped men and women, the gates of hell will open, and it will find the full might of the IDF in the air, at sea, and on land facing it until it is completely destroyed.
Yet some freed hostages and families of those still held captive are begging Israel to stop the fighting, fearing Hamas's threat to kill the hostages in revenge.
Reality has already proven to us that war will not return hostages. It will kill them.
Netanyahu insists Israel's military action has forced the terror group to release 196 hostages.
A simple thing was proven. Military pressure is a necessary condition for the release of additional hostages. The military attack on Hamas and the release of our hostages are not contradictory goals. They're goals that are intertwined.
While the fighting resumes, Netanyahu is urging Palestinian civilians to flee the fighting.
And I call on the people of Gaza, get out of harm's way, move to safer areas, because every civilian casualty is a tragedy.
To prevent civilian casualties, the IDF provided a map to residents in Gaza to guide them safely from the fighting.
That's something that the Western world hasn't seen, an army giving up the element of surprise just to give an opportunity to the civilians to get out of harm's way. But we're committed to that. That's our principles, our values, is to make sure that we are fighting terrorists and not civilians.
In Yemen on Tuesday night, the Houthis fired a missile at an Israeli military base and promises more are coming. Earlier this week, the White House said any shot fired by the Houthis would be counted as a shot from Iran, the Houthis' main backer. On Tuesday, the Trump administration repeated that warning.
Our message to Iran is you better take this president seriously, and I think the Houthis learned that the hard way this past weekend.
In their Tuesday phone call dealing with peace in Ukraine, President Trump and Russian President Putin also discussed the Middle East. A readout of the call says the two leaders shared the view that Iran should never be in a position to destroy Israel. They agreed Iran should not be allowed to develop nuclear weapons, weapons that could be used to destroy Israel. Chris Mitchell, CBN News, Jerusalem.
Our Middle East Bureau Chief Chris Mitchell, he joins us live now from Jerusalem. Chris, why is Netanyahu's new rule of negotiating with Hamas so important?
Well, Brody, for a number of reasons. First of all, it puts military pressure on Hamas, and as Prime Minister Netanyahu said in our report, he really feels like those are intertwined to be able to get the hostages out. It also hinders Hamas from rebuilding its military strength. There's a belief, then understanding that Hamas really has been using the ceasefire to rearm and regroup. It also answers an internal political question for Netanyahu. He's getting pressure from the right. One thing that hasn't been widely spread right now, Brody, is Ben-Gvir, who was a right-wing party, had left the government, but now he's back, and I think that's part of the new policy he agrees with. It also aims to expedite the release of the hostages. And one other thing it does, Brody, it really aligns with the ideas and the sense you get coming out of the Trump White House.
Chris, what about the concerns that Hamas could kill the remaining hostages if Israel keeps attacking?
Well, that's exactly what many people, and as we saw in our report, many of the hostage families are warning and begging the government that they have to do whatever they can to get the hostages out now. That's been the concern. And what other people are saying and what the government may be warning is that any of the hostages are harmed, that they will go ahead and declare sovereignty and literally take over territory inside the Gaza Strip. Now, that's something that would really alarm Hamas. They don't want to give up and cede that territory. On the other hand, Brody, the government is making the case, as Netanyahu said in our report, it's the combination of military action that puts the pressure on the hostages to be released by Hamas Right now, 196 out of 251 that were kidnapped on October 7th. Right now, there were 59 remaining inside Gaza, and 24 of those still alive. And I'll just say one other story, Brody. It was years ago, but there was one Israeli soldier who was killed and kidnapped by Hamas. But before his kidnapping at a Shabbat dinner, he told his father, "If I'm ever kidnapped, don't negotiate with Hamas."
Well, it's so hard. I think that Hamas has got to be thinking now, no matter what, they painted themselves into a corner.
Yeah.
So if there's 59 left, 24 alive, that means 35 bodies have to be returned. It appears to me from watching all of this, they know where they are, so they're not attacking those areas, they're attacking around those areas.
Right.
The question is, will there remain 24 still be alive?
Right.
So if they let them go and they bring the hostages back alive, that probably would put some space in there. But part of the deal is we're going to keep firing at you until the hostages are released and an agreement is made that you'll never attack Israel again from Gaza. Well, okay, that's a nice thing to say and do, but name one thing that Hamas has kept.
Right, nothing.
So anyway, gosh, what a tough spot. It's a tough spot. All right, let's check out the weather with Smiley.
Another active weather system is working its way across the top of our region. So today in northern Oregon and southern Washington, rain likely with daytime high temperatures near 54 in Vancouver, Portland, and Wilsonville. Rain and patchy fog in McMinnville with a high near 52. Moving down the Willamette Valley with rain likely mainly after 11 a.m. and low to mid-50s for Salem, Albany, Corvallis, and Eugene with a light south wind and lows in the upper 30s to low 40s. In central Oregon, mostly cloudy and low 50s in Prineville, a chance of snow, then rain and snow in mid to upper 40s in Bend and Sun River. Over in Boise, Idaho, mostly sunny with a high near 52. Rain with gusty winds along the Oregon coast with daytime highs in the low to mid-50s for Coos Bay, Port Orford, Brookings, and Crescent City, California, with a southeast wind gusting up to 55 miles per hour. In southern Oregon, rain likely after 11 a.m. and breezy with daytime highs near 56 in Grants Pass and Medford and 53 in Ashland. In the Klamath Basin, snow with gusty winds and a high near 47. Into northern California, a chance of rain and breezy with a high near 50 in Wairika and 56 in Redding. A slight chance of showers in near 59 in Chico and partly sunny in low 60s in Sacramento. In the Bay Area, early patchy fog, then a chance of rain in near 58 in Santa Rosa. Areas of fog, then mostly cloudy and near 59 in Napa. Increasing clouds in upper 50s in San Francisco. And today in San Jose, patchy fog, then partly sunny and 65. It's a look at your Wednesday weather on the Dove.
Not accident this morning. If you're watching on the Dove radio, it's just flat covered in snow.
What a scene for the last day of winter.
It really is. It looks like it's the day before Christmas.
It does. Yeah. What a Christmas scene. Absolutely.
Wow. Did you say 55-mile-an-hour winds?
Yeah, along the coast. There are spots up to 55 miles an hour today. But it's gusty all up and down the coast today. So I imagine there's some small craft warnings going on, huh?
Yeah, that's hard to keep your kilt down.
Well, it has been... hard to keep your kilt down. Oh, goodness. What a weather observation. That's great. Okay. It has been called Hollywood's biggest night, and it was on this day in history that the very first Academy Awards was broadcast on TV.
On March 19, 1953, history flickered onto black and white television screens across America. It was the 25th anniversary of the Academy Awards, but for the first time, the world wasn't just reading about Hollywood's biggest night, they were watching it. In living rooms from New York to Los Angeles, families huddled around their TV sets as Bob Hope, the master of ceremonies, took to the stage at the RKO Pantages Theater. The glitz, the gowns, the golden statuettes, it was all there, beamed into homes as if by magic. At the time, television was still in its infancy, and many in the movie business still seemed skeptical about it.
Don't get me wrong, television is wonderful. Today you can sit home and see Broadway shows, go to church in your own living room. You don't have to go outside for anything. I was born on a farm where you had to go outside for everything. But some movie companies are still stubborn about recognizing television. Jack Warner still refers to TV as that furniture that stares back.
The Oscar for Best Picture went to Cecil B. DeMille's The Greatest Show on Earth, while John Ford won Best Director for The Quiet Man, which starred John Wayne and Maureen O'Hara. Winners in the top 2 acting categories were Gary Cooper in High Noon, which was accepted for him by his good friend John Wayne, and Shirley Booth in Come Back, Little Sheba. Bob Hope, a star of stage and screen who tirelessly performed in USO shows for American troops during World War II, would become a mainstay of the new TV medium. He was also the most venerated Academy Award host, playing MC no fewer than 18 times between 1939 and 1977. And as we look back at this first televised Academy Awards, many long for the good old days when the MC actually told jokes, had fun, and left divisive political statements to the politicians.
Amen.
Yeah, amen indeed. Amen.
Well, you and I were born with everything you did. It went outside.
Yeah. Yes. Hey, I was brought up on a farm. I get it.
You haven't lived until there's a half moon on your bathroom door. And inside is the Sears catalog.
Yes, indeed. Yeah. You're taking me back.
There we go. 12 minutes before the hour. Well, yesterday I had Jonathan Filden. We actually Skyped him in from Israel, in Jerusalem, and he gave his assessment of the recent events there in Israel. And here's what he had to say.
Look, it's very sad, and people are talking about resuming the war, but the truth of the matter is it's not a resumption. It's the ongoing war. The war never stopped, and what we've known since October 7th of 2023 is that this is really, it is, and unfortunately it must be, an unrelenting war. It's not a war in which we have the leisure to kick the can down the road. And the last 24 hours came as a surprise to me to a certain degree. But part of the surprise is that we haven't been more forceful in the last few weeks when Hamas has not released any hostages, is toying with the idea of releasing the last living American hostages and the bodies, I believe, of 4 other Americans who are being held hostage in Israel. And somehow, I mean, I think if whoever came up with the phrase push comes to shove, this is that push, and we have to swiftly defeat militarily. But as you alluded to in the intro, ultimately it's not just a military defeat. It goes to the core of an ideology, in their case, one that's jihadist. It's a death-worshipping cult. And that's the nature of our solution for peace in Gaza. I don't know that anyone's changing mind, but changing strategy. There are still, if I'm not mistaken, 59 hostages who are being held. A third to a half of whom are believed to be alive. That we know that they've been suffering tremendous psychological and physical torture, as well as deprivation of any medical service and basic food stuff. So that's a big issue. The question, I think, is ultimately tactic. If we're just going to rely on Hamas to realize that they need to negotiate, and by being good negotiating partners, we'll come up with a resolution and eventually, hopefully, bring all of the hostages out of Gaza. I think that we've proven in the last year and a half, if we didn't know it before, that that's kind of a foolish premise. So if that's the case, then there's no alternative, unfortunately, but to turn up the pressure physically.
There you go. Kind of underscores what we just heard from CBN Newswatch. All right, we'll be right back.
Thousands of satisfied customers make Jim Clark's Consignment Country the most recommended RV consignment lot on the West Coast. Even dealers recommend us. That success comes from dealing with only the cleanest pre-owned RVs at the best prices, no high-pressured salespeople, and treating customers with respect. And we've been doing this in the same location for over 40 years. Before you buy or sell your RV, see why so many satisfied customers recommend Jim Clark's Consignment Country. Family owned and operated at 1630 Rogue River Highway in Grants Pass.
Your property demands equipment with more reliability, durability, and versatility built in. Kubota equipment is ready to get the job done right.
Don't miss this. After being stripped, beaten, locked, and left to suffer, Paul and Silas were praying and singing hymns to God. They chose to praise God in the middle of horrible circumstances. If we're worshiping God with resolution today, we will learn to worship God in persecution tomorrow. We need to learn how to worship God. Know this, when you come to church every Sunday, this is a rehearsal. We're learning to praise God, not just for now, but for the days coming when we will not need praise just for our own edification, but for our own protection. Praise is a weapon. You and I get to choose how we respond to persecution. We can respond in anger, or we can resolve to worship and amplify the values of God's kingdom. When the time comes, I pray that you and I will have the courage to make the right choice. And we resolve to worship even in the midst of mistreatment. God will get the glory, and victory will be ours.
Welcome back. 7 minutes before the top of the hour. Well, there's one of these facts out there that's kind of interesting to watch people react to, and that is it looks like the polling of the Democrats continue to sink. And GOP pollster Michael Brown talks about this.
In 2008, the Democrat Party was sitting around a 60% favorability rating. Fast forward to today, like you saw, 29%. What's really driven that? I think it needs to be a lot of inward reflection for the Democratic Party. What they were talking about in 2008 was kind of center-of-the-road, center-right policies. There's video clips going around right now of Hillary Clinton speaking about the border and what we have to do to crack down on immigration. You can look at the videos of Obama talking about government efficiency. It was about relating to the American people. And finally, they did a great job at conveying that they were the party of the working class and they were for the worker. When today, it's not like that. It seems like the only people that they're representing are those in those high ivy towers and the educated folk around the country.
Amen. Yeah.
So the thing is, they want to change their rhetoric, but they won't change their ideology to win, which tells me they're insincere.
Hey, you know, vegetables are good for you.
They are.
Some people can play them as instruments, and some group actually had set a Guinness World Records for playing vegetables. Check this out.
The 11-piece vegetable orchestra formed in Vienna, Austria in 1999 when musicians of various backgrounds came together with the idea of carving veggies into instruments. Founding member Matthias Meinharder said it all started as a joke. He said the founding 4 members had been signed up for a performance art festival in Vienna, and we were brainstorming what we could do, and we thought, what's the most difficult thing to play music on? We were making soup together at the time, and one thing led to another. The performers have now perfected the art of playing with their food. Their instruments include carrots carved into recorders and leeks into mandolins. The musicians said they carve fresh vegetables before every performance, as their instruments only last for about 6 hours before starting to rot or lose their shape. Any unused vegetables are made into a soup to be served at the concert, and the spent instruments are turned into organic waste to keep the concerts eco-friendly. The orchestra told Guinness World Records that only one subject is off limits during their concerts, asking whether the musicians are vegetarians. They stated emphatically, "No, we are not. Don't ask again. We've heard this question 3 million times."
Don't play with your food.
So, are you going to lead worship this Sunday with a banana?
No. I thought maybe that drilled out carrot might work.
Oh, gosh. That looked messy.
Yep.
All right, 1 John 3:22, and whatever we ask, We receive from him. Why? Because we keep his commandments and do what pleases him. So, ask and you shall receive if you keep his commandments. Beautiful day. Bluebird Day on the hill coming up.
Yeah.
The right cleaning company matters. Choose Dust Plus Cleaning and Carpet Care, a family-owned company proudly serving Grants Pass and nearby communities for over 25 years. We're passionate about delivering the best, whether it's carpets, using purified water for no window spots, or carefully washing solar panels. We're committed to superb customer service from start to finish. Radiant spaces from local professionals. Request a free quote today.
Bulls, bears, and other market beasts. How can you be sure they won't eat your investments alive? I'm Michelle Slate. Lighthouse Financial shines guiding light on retirement, investing, and insurance. As you navigate the stormy seas of investing, Lighthouse stands out as a beacon of hope, offering you wise counsel and biblically responsible investing. Lighthouse Financial. Call us today, 541-494-1034.
Spring is around the corner and summer is on its way, with fire danger biting at its heels. Flammable blackberries and underbrush will grow like gangbusters and sprout fire danger in no time. A wise property owner knows the best time to take care of fire danger is to extinguish it before it gets started. GMV Forestry, LLC can help you protect your property with adequate fire brush clearing to fireproof a zone around your precious property. With over 35 years experience, GMV Forestry LLC has the knowledge, experience, and all the equipment you need to get the job done right, offering a wide variety of services like mulching, field mowing, snow removal, driveway clearing, ditch cleaning, gravel delivery and spreading, driveway sweeping, logging, and more. GMV Forestry LLC does it all, and they do it right. GMV Forestry LLC, the team you can trust. 541-660-6445. 541-660-6445.
The Dove TV, always encouraging, always informative, and your home for wretched TV.
The biblical instructions for coming to Christ are repentance and faith. So repentance, that is turning away from your lifestyle of sin, and faith, trusting in the Lord Jesus Christ alone.
There is truth in this world because God created it, and His Word is truth. We see this laid out in the Bible, the foundation to a reasonable faith. And that faith is centered on Jesus Christ and His great work.
Monday, Friday, and Saturday on the Dove TV. Apologetics on major issues so you can know your faith. Watch the John Ankerberg Show, weekdays at 4 on the Dove TV, encouraging and informative.
Good morning. Happy last day of winter. Welcome to Mornings on the Dove. I am Jerry Bilden's designated driver.
Thank you for that. I was looking for you this morning.
Yeah.
At Dark 30.
There we go.
Oh, man. Yeah, thanks.
Anyway, good morning to you. A lot going on in the news. I don't know when there's not, so we'll get to that. And there's quite a few things. Kind of exciting yesterday. The whole space thing just kind of caught my attention.
Yeah.
I was kind of taken up by it.
I think a lot of people were watching that.
Yeah, it was pretty cool. So anyway, we'll talk about that coming up. And the weather, well, today is the last day of winter. We'll have a little winter spout today and tomorrow, but I would say tomorrow, first day, I would say Friday on, woo, looking good.
Yeah.
And next week in Oregon is spring break, so a lot going on.
All right.
What's up?
Well, last day of winter, go out in your backyard and enjoy, because it is National Backyard Day. It is the day that we celebrate that place where we can go, and if you're not flooded out, by now water levels have kind of dropped. You probably don't have any water standing back there anymore, but
have a staycation.
Yeah, get ready. Yeah. Well, spring is right around the corner, so it's time to start planting things and you know, sprucing up your yard and start edging and mowing and replanting, and I got a lot of replanting to go. So anyway, enjoy your backyard. National SBDC Day, National Small Business Development Centers, a day that recognizes the thousands of SBDCs across the country supporting entrepreneurs in pursuit of small business ownership, and we know that is the backbone of our economy.
Small business, #1 employer still in the United States.
Absolutely. So there we go in support of that. National 3D Day, exploring the technologies used to create 3D photographs, movies, and art. And how many of us have sat in a movie theater with funny glasses on watching the movie? They even did it once on TV when we lived back east. They had a promotion, a special that they were going to do a special 3D movie on TV, and you could get and there were the little cardboard glasses, and one I think was red and one was blue.
Yeah.
And you looked at the TV and we thought, what? I don't know. I don't get this. But
I've done a lot of flying in my days.
Yeah.
I've done a lot of even aerobatic. I don't like aerobatics.
Okay.
That makes my head dizzy. But wearing those 3D glasses in the theater is about as close to motion sickness as I could get.
Yep. And some of them have been pretty good. I've been in the theater where it was really quite effective, and you could you kind of backed up when things came flying. And movie makers, when they do 3D, they like to throw things at you, don't they? They like that motion coming at you, like, oh, wait a minute, let me duck. So anyway, National 3D Day, enjoy. National Certified Nurses Day, of course, celebrating certified nurses who impact lives every day. Christy, love you. She's my nurse sister. She is the family consultant for all our medical needs.
So she's a shadow doctor.
She is? Yeah, absolutely.
Okay.
So we appreciate that. Also, it is National Let's Laugh Day. Speaking of medicine, we've all heard that laughter is the best medicine, and this is the day to take your medicine. Some studies have shown that laughter may boost your immune system, relieve tension, and help you relax. And who doesn't need any of those things to fly by the wayside?
Chill, baby, chill.
Yeah, that's right. Remember that next time you're stuck in traffic. Also, National Poultry Day. You can kick off the day with eggs and turkey bacon for breakfast. Around lunchtime, serve an open-faced turkey avocado sandwich, and then perhaps finish off the day with a good old-fashioned fried chicken dinner. Or, as you said, how about some Chick-fil-A?
Well, you can go to Chick-fil-A.
Yeah.
We have 2 of them here in Southern Oregon now. Same family owns them both. They're great people. And then if you want the barbecue chicken, you got to go to Sweet Tea up the street here.
Oh, that's fabulous.
They actually smoke the barbecue, or they smoke the chicken and beef and everything in these smokers out in the parking lot. You can't drive by without going,
Yes. And you know what? That is kind of a trend in a lot of fast food restaurants these days, are these spicy chicken sandwiches. Oh. Now, more and more of these fast food places are doing the chicken sandwiches.
Yeah.
Because I guess they say it's a healthy alternative, but you got to watch out, because one of the things that and Scott can attest to this, one of the things they pile on to all those is a lot of sodium. Be careful.
Well, again, if you want the barbecue chicken or the smoked chicken, go to Chick-fil-A.
Yeah,
if you want to be out in 30 seconds, go to Sweet Tea. If you want the barbecue chicken, smoked chicken, go to Sweet Tea.
Yeah, okay.
Both here, Grants passing around.
So,
but if you want a fast chicken, 30 seconds or less, go to Chick-fil-A.
Oh,
Have you noticed how fast they get it out?
And you know what? It's even faster. Use your app. It'll be waiting for you when you get there.
I've often wondered if they could have a fast food contest of delivery.
Oh, yeah.
Now, go in and order a hamburger from the various places, or chicken,
and
see how long it takes for you to get your meal, and then rate it.
And speaking of which, is anybody doing drone delivery anymore? You remember we were talking about that for a while?
Well, they got shut down. If I saw a pizza flying over my house, I'd shoot it down.
Somebody got my sandwich. That's funny.
Yeah.
All right, and then top it all off with chocolate caramel. It is National Chocolate Caramel Day, a great combination. Enjoy chocolate and caramel in your favorite candy bar, ice cream, or dessert. And, of course, it puts a smile on a lot of faces, invoking some cravings for chocolate caramel coffee, milkshakes, or just about any treat with this hard-to-resist combination. And it comes in a lot of different forms, but it is a great combo. Tough to go wrong with that.
Good stuff. Mm-hmm. All right. Well, It's hard not to laugh when you mention the name Jerry. Doing weather. There it is.
Yeah.
Another active weather system is working its way across the top of our region. So today in northern Oregon and southern Washington, rain likely with daytime high temperatures near 54 in Vancouver, Portland, and Wilsonville. Rain and patchy fog in McMinnville with a high near 52. Moving down the Willamette Valley with rain likely mainly after 11 a.m. and low to mid-50s for Salem, Albany, Corvallis, and Eugene with a light south wind and lows in the upper 30s to low 40s. In central Oregon, mostly cloudy and low 50s in Prineville, a chance of snow, then rain and snow in mid to upper 40s in Bend and Sun River. Over in Boise, Idaho, mostly sunny with a high near 52. Rain with gusty winds along the Oregon coast with daytime highs in the low to mid-50s for Coos Bay, Port Orford, Brookings, and Crescent City, California, with a southeast wind gusting up to 55 miles per hour. In southern Oregon, rain likely after 11 a.m. and breezy with daytime highs near 56 in Grants Pass and Medford and 53 in Ashland. In the Klamath Basin, snow with gusty winds and a high near 47. Into northern California, a chance of rain and breezy with a high near 50 in Wairika and 56 in Redding. A slight chance of showers in near 59 in Chico and partly sunny in low 60s in Sacramento. In the Bay Area, early patchy fog, then a chance of rain in near 58 in Santa Rosa. Areas of fog, then mostly cloudy in near 59 in Napa. Increasing clouds in upper 50s in San Francisco. And today in San Jose, patchy fog, then partly sunny and 65. It's a look at your Wednesday weather on the Dove.
Well, for those watching on the Dove Radio, we are looking at a gorgeous picture of Mount Ashland. And you can tell it's cold up there. Look at that parking lot.
Yes, indeed. And it looks like they got that plow fixed.
Yep.
It is scraped off, but...
not open today.
Not open today, but I have a feeling it's going to be busy tomorrow.
Oh, boy. And right on through all next week. I wonder if they're going to open every day next week.
I don't think so, no.
Okay.
I don't think so. But anyway... They should. Anyway, moving on.
Hello.
You know, we wake up in the morning and we kind of have our day in front of us. Oftentimes we know what we're going to do through the course of our day. But here's Ann Graham-Lotz with some encouragement and a suggestion.
When you and I come to the cross, we confess our sin, claim Jesus as Savior and Lord, invite Him to come in, we conceive within us the spiritual life of Jesus, okay? We become a new creation on the inside. It's the Holy Spirit living in us. I have a mind to think God's thoughts and a heart to love people I don't even like and a will to do the right thing. And I still have my old nature, don't misunderstand, but I have a new creation. I have the Holy Spirit. I have the life of Jesus living inside of me. So I want you to make sure, before you leave this auditorium, if you're watching online or listening on the radio, however you're accessing this message, make sure that you have received the Holy Spirit into you. It makes all the difference. You can be in a place like this and feel the presence of Jesus because He lives in so many people here. Leave here and you feel suddenly something's different and I feel alone. And it's because you have stepped away from the presence of Jesus. He's not in you. So make sure that you've come to the cross, confessed your sin, told God you're sorry, willing to repent, turn away from your sin, claiming Jesus as your Savior, your Lord, inviting Him to come in, be born again today into the family of God.
Mm-hmm. Gosh, she's so passionate. Mm-hmm. When you read her story of life, it wasn't easy.
Oh.
Wasn't easy.
Oh, interesting.
But it was committed.
Okay.
And so, good stuff. All right, 10 minutes past the hour. Let's take a look at some of the top stories. And, of course, the big one yesterday, I think, that caught the attention even the world was SpaceX goes up and gets the astronauts and bring them home. There were 4 of them. And, of course, the 2 that were up there by mistake for 9 months was Butch Wilmore and Suni Williams. They went up for a weekend visit and got stuck up there for 9 months. And there's a picture of inside the capsule. It almost looks like it's from Star Wars or something.
I know. They almost look like they're using my muck boots that I used to get off my bed.
They're all in their Tesla outfits. Yeah. Anyway, so Elon Musk not only sends the rocket up, but the capsule.
Yeah.
And SpaceX does this and goes up and rescues them. And they bring home a Russian astronaut, another NASA astronaut, and then the 2 that were stuck there by accident for 9 months. And Williams was 62. Williams was 59. Wilmore was 62. And so we're watching the picture there. I watched this whole thing yesterday. It was absolutely fascinating to me. And anyway, they got him out, and they're pretty concerned.
Let me ask you this. Are you surprised that this rescue turned political?
I was shocked.
Huh?
I thought, why isn't the world jumping up and down?
Right.
And the Democrats were criticizing it.
Right. And?
Well, the only explanation I can give you, I think Judge Judy yesterday on Jeannie, excuse me, not Judy, Judge Jeannie Pirro there on the 5. I found this clip, Alice did for us. I think this explains what's going on, which is so hard to process.
Yeah.
But if you hate Trump, now you hate Elon.
Absolutely.
And somehow that blinds you from things as happy as this.
Right.
And she explains it, and here it is.
The whole thing is a metaphor for everything that we've seen in the last 4 years, where Donald Trump has to come in and clean everything up. Whether it's the border, whether it's what's going on in Ukraine or, in the Middle East, Donald Trump is coming in and he's making sure that he's fixing things. But this whole thing is on par with the left's obsession with Trump derangement syndrome that we talked about the other day. The Musk derangement syndrome is like a variant of the Trump one. And even though these astronauts, there's no question that they have suffered some physical deficits as a result of being out in space for 9 months, whether it's bone loss, some muscle loss, the atrophying, the fact that their vision is impaired and their gut is impaired and all that we'll talk about later. But that Elon Musk had offered to bring them home. And the optics of the left are so vicious, so hateful, that they would prefer to leave these people up there with the inept Biden administration, with Boeing. And I've said before, if it's Boeing, I ain't going. I mean, that you've got whistleblowers who are dying unnaturally within days of giving evidence against Boeing. And now, even the astronauts are saying, we're immensely grateful. And I love that they said, we have immense joy for what they're doing. Remember the Democrat, their whole premise was, we're going to bring joy and unity. You brought everything but. Thank God for Musk and thank God for Donald Trump.
Mm-hmm. Well, I didn't understand this until yesterday when the news was starting to break that they had separated from the International Space Station, and they were now moving into the orbit to bring that capsule down, and that was going on for hours. I was switching around like I do to see how other people are covering it, and I was really kind of going, are you telling me as big a story this is, MSNBC didn't even do it.
Oh, no kidding. Oh.
And I'm thinking, what are you guys doing? Why not? This is big stuff.
Yeah.
Well, when you look at it, it's the jealousy or the anger or the frustration or now the Elon Musk derangement syndrome.
Right.
They can't even award this for what it really is. These people were stuck up there accidentally. And, it was a Boeing craft that got them up there and couldn't bring them home. They have to live with that embarrassment.
Right.
Okay. Musk goes up there with hardly, well, I say no effort. It was a big deal. Sends his rocket up, and then it detaches, and there goes the capsule up there, goes to the space station, zeroes in on it, loads them up, and brings them home.
One of the questions you asked during this whole process as we've been waiting, it's been almost 10 months, and you've asked, why wait? Why haven't they gotten them sooner? Well, it turns out Elon Musk offered the Biden administration that option, and they turned him down, and you wonder, it was just the optics politically? They didn't want Musk doing the rescue?
Well, look, that's the only thing that it is. To me, it's crazy. I watched Chuck Schumer go on the View yesterday, and if you're going to go to the View to get rescued as a liberal, but the View beats you up, that's a bad day.
Oh, yes.
Okay, and they beat him up because he voted for this funding bill.
Right.
So the left is going so far left and crazy that they can't even applaud a boy fighting cancer and 2 astronauts that got accidentally stuck in space for 9 months and came home safely.
Right.
They can't even do this.
That's true.
You talk about people losing their soul.
Oh, man.
Well, the other thing that's so interesting that broke yesterday, and Jerry and I were talking about it during the breaks, there is no news this morning of some of the information inside the JFK assassination files.
There's very little coming out.
They were released yesterday. It was about 1,123 unredacted documents for a total of 80,000 pages that finally the Trump administration said that they were going to be transparent, and they are. They released them. And there's no comments on this morning.
No. The only comment I'm seeing is that from the Russian side, it's been talking about Oswald had a stormy relationship with his Soviet wife, who apparently rode him incessantly. And the KGB also doubts that he was a true agent of the KGB, and they said that he showed very poor marksmanship on the target range while he was in the Soviet Union. So you know what the implications are. He was a lousy shot, so he couldn't have taken that shot, could he?
Well, see, I don't know. I mean, I'm surprised. 80,000 pages. Do you think this morning this would be all running across the headlines?
You would think, yeah.
And there's nothing.
Nothing.
Kind of strange.
Weird.
All right, we'll take something Chick-fil-A
break.
Sweet tea barbecue chicken break.
Okay.
Get ready for fun at Rogue Ski Shop Think Snow Sale. Boulder Gear clothing now 20% off. Goggles, adults starting at $29, kids starting at $26. All Scott gloves 20% off. If you ski or ride, it's time to slide into Rogue Ski Shop Medford.
Come fall in love with Northridge Senior Living, where contemporary sunlit interiors meet old world elegance. Walk through our lovely hallways and enjoy the fun staff-led activities. Forge lasting friendships with other residents and our exceptional caregivers. Dine in style. Gather near the fireplace under breathtaking chandeliers. Our reasonably priced apartments are spacious with private balconies. Northridge is Christian owned and operated, pet friendly, and only 2 blocks from Asante Rogue Regional Medical Center. On-site 24/7 in-home care is available. We also offer senior adult daycare where your loved one can spend the day with us and the evenings with you. Northridge Senior Living, your home.
You feel most alive where you feel most at home. And this is living. Bobcat, the company that changed the way the world works, is coming home with a quality compact tractor built to match your quality of life. This isn't work you have to do. It's work you get to do. So get it done in a tractor that's all you. See your dealer or visit bobcat.com.
Welcome back. 19 and a half minutes now past the hour. Happy last day of winter for you. So we're celebrating that. Well, yesterday, this is so interesting. You know, the what they call the wildfire hazard maps came out in Oregon. Huge controversy. And it was all a result of the Alameda fire that we had here and, of course, the wildfires throughout the state in the last couple of years. We've had some very bad fires, no question about it. So it comes up with this map, and when they start creating this map, people who lived in the hazardous area all of a sudden couldn't get insurance. The notes were being called. The thing was hugely controversial. Senator Jeff Golden out of Ashland was one of the sponsors of this bill. The pushback has been so good, so they go around the state and they hold these town hall meetings, and people show up, and boy, they're pretty upset about it. And they had till March 10th to file an appeal against the map, and I understand the governor is seriously considering of not signing this bill. So in the meantime, they come up with another one, House Bill 3944, which would rescind the map of the extreme regulations that it places on landowners and homeowners. And we'll see where this goes. And this is being pushed out by the House and Senate Republicans. You can only hope that they are really smart about this and they get it done. But the pushback has been very, very significant. And so listen to this. Listen to this comment. Quote, people are being asked to trust a map that doesn't consider what's on their property. It is insulting their intelligence. And who said that? The guy who came up with the original map, Senator Jeff Golden out of Ashland. Now, I know Jeff. I call him by his first name. He and I have done shows together. I like them. We just disagree on a lot of things.
Yeah.
But the point being is, this is a huge, huge step back.
What caused him to say something like that about his own map, about his own deal?
Well, I think it was the outcry of citizens across the state. We don't need this map. The only thing we need to do is have fire districts encourage people to have a recommendation that would clear the property away from their house from fire, which would please insurance companies, okay, which would take care of the bank problem. We don't need the state coming in there and telling us it's that.
Right.
So an insurance company inspector could go up and say, well, you meet it. Great. Hallelujah. Life's fine. The other thing is, well, why aren't we managing the forest better? We have to go in after these forest fires and clean up. And, of course, these liberals don't want you to touch anything.
Of course not. Right.
So this may get rescinded. It looks like it's one of those things weird in a completely blue-dominant state that might get pulled back.
We know that there are elements of government that don't like people living outside of cities. And we have seen it get tougher and tougher to get over the hurdles to be able to, to develop property, build a home, put in a septic system, put in a well. There's even been talking about metering our wells.
Yeah.
Is this all a push to move us back out of the country and back into town?
No, it's government. It's control.
Okay.
A socialistic society can't exist without government being in control. Liberals want to control your life, and they do it by dividing you and creating the has and the has-nots and all that nonsense. The point being on this here, can you imagine people that lived inside this map and got classified as being in a hazardous area, couldn't get insurance, and the bank calls their note? Well, you got that threat.
Well, yeah, I got a threat. I've gotten it both ways.
You got it for the flood.
I got it for flood first, and then I find out I get the map sent to me. I'm on the map, and we've done everything to clear and get everything proper around our house. And we've had a couple fires. A couple times we had to evacuate, and we've had the fire departments up there, and they've looked and they said, "You got it down here. You're clear. We'll have no problems up here." And yet I get the fire map, and I think, okay, what are the ramifications of this? How do we fight this? How much money do I have to spend? Do I need an attorney? How do I do this? I don't know.
Well, do you think it bothers them that your house looks like an ark?
I thought I was actually going to need that, over this last storm.
You may want to make it a little bit more square and put a roof.
Oh, yeah, my dogs are lining up.
There you go. All right, let's take a look at Wall Street for the last day of winter and see what's happening over there. Thank you, Preston, at the Smart Lawn people. The Dow, gosh, you talk about a roller coaster. Yesterday in the red, today it's back in the green. Let's call it 220 points up. The Nasdaq is up 168, and the S&P up 37.5 points. So big numbers going the other way today. In the meantime, that pushed gold down, but look, gold's still at 3,000. That's a break. That's a marker. Crude, silver, look at that, 34.34. Silver, crude oil's down. Let's see, 3 cents. $70.08 a barrel. So there you go.
Well, it's interesting. We know that President Trump spoke with Vladimir Putin. Did you realize they talked a little bit about Iran?
No.
I didn't either. Well, Brigadier General Blaine Holt, retired, reacted to the phone call between Trump and Putin, and that Putin agreed that Iran should never be allowed to destroy Israel.
If Russia wanted to, they could make life very, very difficult in the Middle East using Iran as a pivot point. But Iran lost a lot of its wartime production capability out of the last Israel strike. This is a place where Russia can be very helpful. The Russians have taken in a lot of Christians and Alawites just to save them in the Syria situation where you see a building terror state. And so I think President Putin well understands that if we're not going to go to a place World War III, then the Middle East is a cauldron, and the United States and Russia would do well to cooperate where they possibly can. This will also help pull Putin away from the welded relationship they have with China now, which quite honestly for the Russians hasn't worked out very well.
I still think I don't know. Hey, I'm certainly not a geopolitical diplomat by any means. But it just appears to me that President Trump's back of his mind is to get between Russia and China.
I think you're right.
And get Russia to look to America and not to China.
And I think that's a necessary move.
Yeah.
Yep.
Now, don't get me wrong. That doesn't give Russia a pass for what they did to Ukraine.
Right.
So you got to kind of get that figured out and get the killing stopped. But the ceasefire is not a full ceasefire. It's just a ceasefire on
infrastructure
and power plants and things like that.
Right.
So we'll see. At least the door is open.
Yes.
So we'll see where it goes. All right. Let's see. What do we have today? We have chicken.
Chicken and chocolate.
Well, actually, it's poultry.
Poultry. Turkey, chicken, duck, geese.
I had duck a couple of weeks ago.
Oh, really? How was it?
Well, I have to tell you, my brother shot the duck.
Oh, did you get any BBs out of it?
Well, I won't tell you how we ate that thing.
Oh!
Actually, it was prepared in an hors d'oeuvre at a party.
Oh, really?
And it was his birthday party.
Pate?
And these little medallions.
Okay.
Of duck. Do you like duck?
Oh, yes. I do.
A lot of people don't, but I do.
Oh, I do. Yeah, it's that darker meat, and you got.
But when I was a kid, we duck hunt a lot.
And you're from a duck hunting area.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And it's a wonder we're still alive.
I know.
Because the shot that we shot the bird with
was lead shot. That's right.
And we'd spit it out on the middle of the table.
Yes.
On my mother's linen. We'll be right back.
Oh, golly. Yes. That's cool.
Your yard is where life happens, but it can be muddy and hard to maintain. Enjoy a maintenance-free artificial turf lawn all year round with Smart Lawn LLC. No mowing, no fertilizing, no watering. Our synthetic grass is beautiful and resilient. It's certified to be lead-free, and there's no need for pesticides. Safe for your children and pets. Smart Lawn LLC has all your artificial turf and putting green areas covered beautifully. 541-941-3538. Spring is around the corner and summer is on its way. With fire danger biting at its heels, flammable blackberries and underbrush will grow like gangbusters and sprout fire danger in no time. A wise property owner knows the best time to take care of fire danger is to extinguish it before it gets started. GMV Forestry LLC can help you protect your property with adequate fire brush clearing to fireproof a zone around your precious property. With over 35 years experience, GMV Forestry LLC has the knowledge, experience, and all the equipment you need to get the job done right, offering a wide variety of services like mulching, field mowing, snow removal, driveway clearing, ditch cleaning, gravel delivery and spreading, driveway sweeping, logging, and more. GMV Forestry LLC does it all, and they do it right. GMV Forestry LLC, the team you can trust. 541-660-6445. 541-660-6445. Want to be part of something impactful? Rogue Valley Habitat's first ever golf tournament is teeing off at Centennial Golf Course April 25th, and the smartest businesses in Southern Oregon are jumping in. Sponsorship packages from $500 to $5,000 include course signage, event promotions, and networking opportunities. Top sponsors receive tournament team entry. Ready to be a game changer? Call Tyler Hunter at 541-261-3520 today. Rogue Valley Habitat, building community one home at a time.
Okay, happy last day of winter.
Yeah.
Are we pushing this or what?
Yeah, a little bit. Well, it's okay.
It's been an interesting winter. Then we went through a dry season.
Yeah.
Then we had a flood. Then we had snow. Then we had a flood again.
Yeah.
Flood and snow. It's been kind of an interesting.
Yeah, but you know what? All the reservoirs are full.
I know. This is beautiful.
Yeah.
So, for those of us who live on wells, hallelujah.
Hallelujah indeed.
All right.
Yeah.
All right, let's check in with CBN News Watch and get caught up.
This is CBN News Watch.
Well, we begin in Israel, where Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu has declared the rules of negotiating with Hamas have changed. Netanyahu now says hostage talks will only be held, quote, under fire. CBN Middle East Bureau Chief Chris Mitchell brings us that story from Jerusalem.
Netanyahu announced the new rule is designed to achieve the goals of the war.
The release of all our hostages, the elimination of Hamas, and the promise that Gaza will no longer pose a threat to Israel.
Israel's message to Hamas, Unless more hostages are released, the attacks won't stop.
And if it does not immediately release all the kidnapped men and women, the gates of hell will open, and it will find the full might of the IDF in the air, at sea, and on land facing it until it is completely destroyed.
Yet some freed hostages and families of those still held captive are begging Israel to stop the fighting, fearing Hamas's threat to kill the hostages in revenge.
Reality has already proven to us that war will not return hostages. It will kill them.
Netanyahu insists Israel's military action has forced the terror group to release 196 hostages.
A simple thing was proven. Military pressure is a necessary condition for the release of additional hostages. The military attack on Hamas and the release of our hostages are not contradictory goals. They're goals that are intertwined.
While the fighting resumes, Netanyahu is urging Palestinian civilians to flee the fighting.
And I call on the people of Gaza, get out of harm's way, move to safer areas, because every civilian casualty is a tragedy.
To prevent civilian casualties, the IDF provided a map to residents in Gaza to guide them safely from the fighting.
That's something that the Western world hasn't seen, an army giving up the element of surprise just to give an opportunity to the civilians to get out of harm's way. But we're committed to that. That's our principles, our values, is to make sure that we are fighting terrorists and not civilians.
In Yemen on Tuesday night, the Houthis fired a missile at an Israeli military base and promises more are coming. Earlier this week, the White House said any shot fired by the Houthis would be counted as a shot from Iran, the Houthis' main backer. On Tuesday, the Trump administration repeated that warning.
But our message to Iran is you better take this president seriously, and I think the Houthis learned that the hard way this past weekend.
In their Tuesday phone call dealing with peace in Ukraine, President Trump and Russian President Putin also discussed the Middle East. A readout of the call says the two leaders shared the view that Iran should never be in a position to destroy Israel. They agreed Iran should not be allowed to develop nuclear weapons that could be used to destroy Israel. Chris Mitchell, CBN News, Jerusalem.
Our Middle East Bureau Chief Chris Mitchell, he joins us live now from Jerusalem. Chris, why is Netanyahu's new rule of negotiating with Hamas so important?
Well, Brody, for a number of reasons. First of all, it puts military pressure on Hamas, and as Prime Minister Netanyahu said in our report, he really feels like those are intertwined to be able to get the hostages out. It also hinders Hamas from rebuilding its military strength. There's a belief, then understanding that Hamas really has been using the ceasefire to rearm and regroup. It also answers an internal political question for Netanyahu. He's getting pressure from the right. One thing that hasn't been widely spread right now, Brody, is Ben-Gvir, who was a right-wing party, had left the government, but now he's back, and I think that's part of the new policy he agrees with. It also aims to expedite the release of the hostages. And one other thing it does, Brody, it really aligns with the ideas and the sense you get coming out of the Trump White House.
Chris, what about the concerns that Hamas could kill the remaining hostages if Israel keeps attacking?
Well, that's exactly what, many people, and as we saw in our report, many of the hostage families are warning and begging the government that they have to do whatever they can to get the hostages out now. That's been the concern. And what other people are saying and what the government may be warning is that any of the hostages are harmed, that they will go ahead and declare sovereignty and literally take over territory inside the Gaza Strip. Now, that's something that would really alarm Hamas. They don't want to give up and cede that territory. On the other hand, Brody, the government is making the case, as Netanyahu said in our report, it's the combination of military action that puts the pressure on the hostages to be released by Hamas. Right now, 196 out of 251 that were kidnapped on October 7th. Right now, there were 59 remaining inside Gaza, and 24 of those still alive. And I'll just say one other story, Brody. It was years ago, but there was one Israeli soldier who was killed and kidnapped by Hamas. But before his kidnapping at a Shabbat dinner, he told his father, "If I'm ever kidnapped, don't negotiate with Hamas."
Wow.
It's just hard to process, but it seems like there is now a strategic shift in Israel's thinking.
Mm-hmm.
They're going to keep the heat on.
Yeah.
We'll see where this goes. All right. Well, let's check out the weather. It's heat, cold, wet. It's all that stuff. Windy.
Another active weather system is working its way across the top of our region. So today in northern Oregon and southern Washington, rain likely with daytime high temperatures near 54 in Vancouver, Portland, and Wilsonville. Rain and patchy fog in McMinnville with a high near 52. Moving down the Willamette Valley with rain likely mainly after 11 a.m. and low to mid-50s for Salem, Albany, Corvallis, and Eugene with a light south wind and lows in the upper 30s to low 40s. In central Oregon, mostly cloudy and low 50s in Prineville. A chance of snow, then rain and snow in mid to upper 40s in Bend and Sun River. Over in Boise, Idaho, mostly sunny with a high near 52. Rain with gusty winds along the Oregon coast with daytime highs in the low to mid-50s for Coos Bay, Port Orford, Brookings, and Crescent City, California, with a southeast wind gusting up to 55 miles per hour. In southern Oregon, rain likely after 11 a.m. and breezy with daytime highs near 56 in Grants Pass and Medford and 53 in Ashland. In the Klamath Basin, snow with gusty winds and a high near 47. Into northern California, a chance of rain and breezy with a high near 50 in Wairika and 56 in Redding. A slight chance of showers in near 59 in Chico and partly sunny in low 60s in Sacramento. In the Bay Area, early patchy fog, then a chance of rain in near 58 in Santa Rosa. Areas of fog, then mostly cloudy in near 59 in Napa. Increasing clouds in upper 50s in San Francisco. And today in San Jose, patchy fog, then partly sunny and 65. It's a look at your Wednesday weather on the Dove.
Wow. It looks like a little fog up there at the moment.
It looks like winter, like the last day of it.
Yeah, last day of winter.
It's going to look a lot like this tomorrow as well, but enjoy this one. Well, it has been called Hollywood's biggest night, and it was on this day in history that the very first Academy Awards was broadcast on TV. On March 19, 1953, history flickered onto black and white television screens across America. It was the 25th anniversary of the Academy Awards, but for the first time, the world wasn't just reading about Hollywood's biggest night, they were watching it. In living rooms from New York to Los Angeles, families huddled around their TV sets as Bob Hope, the master of ceremonies, took to the stage at the RKO Pantages Theater. The glitz, the gowns, the golden statuettes, it was all there, beamed into homes as if by magic. At the time, television was still in its infancy, and many in the movie business still seemed skeptical about it.
Don't get me wrong, television is wonderful. Today you can sit home and see Broadway shows, go to church in your own living room. You don't have to go outside for anything. I was born on a farm where you had to go outside for everything. But some movie companies are still stubborn about recognizing television. Jack Warner still refers to TV as that furniture that stares back.
The Oscar for Best Picture went to Cecil B. DeMille's The Greatest Show on Earth, while John Ford won Best Director for The Quiet Man, which starred John Wayne and Maureen O'Hara. Winners in the top two acting categories were Gary Cooper in High Noon, which was accepted for him by his good friend John Wayne, and Shirley Booth in Come Back, Little Sheba. Bob Hope, a star of stage and screen who tirelessly performed in USO shows for American troops during World War II, would become a mainstay of the new TV medium. He was also the most venerated Academy Award host, playing MC no fewer than 18 times between 1939 and 1977. And as we look back at this first televised Academy Awards, many long for the good old days when the MC actually told jokes, had fun, and left divisive political statements to the politicians.
Well, I have to tell you, there were the days where it was the show to watch. It was fun to watch. It was clean. It was hilarious.
Yes.
Some of the best shows not only was Bob Hope, he was such an amazing entertainer. But Johnny Carson did it a couple of times.
Yes, he did. And Billy Crystal did it. He was funny too.
And they were funny, but now it's turned into some kind of a political statement.
And you want to know something else? I'm really losing it. Sometimes I'm not even aware of the films that are up for awards anymore.
Well, there you go.
Huh?
We need Steve Johnson. He watches everything, including paint drying.
Yeah.
But it's just that I don't know. It's too bad because it used to be really a fun thing to watch.
It was.
Now it's turned into this, who knows what. Yeah. All right. I had yesterday Jonathan Fieldstein on. He is from Jerusalem. We Skyped him in. He's quite a guy, and he gave his assessment of the recent events there in the Middle East, as well as the change in the strategy of Israel into Gaza, what it might mean. And here's what he had to say.
Look, it's very sad, and people are talking about resuming the war, but the truth of the matter is it's not a resumption. It's the ongoing war. The war never stopped, and what we've known since October 7th of 2023 is that it is and unfortunately a must be an unrelenting war. It's not a war in which we have the leisure to kick the can down the road. And the last 24 hours came as a surprise to me to a certain degree. But part of the surprise is that we haven't been more forceful in the last few weeks when Hamas has not released any hostages, is toying with the idea of releasing the last living American hostages and the bodies, I believe, of 4 other Americans who are being held hostage in Israel. And somehow, I think if whoever came up with the phrase "push comes to shove," this is that push, and we have to swiftly defeat militarily. But as you alluded to in the intro, ultimately it's not just a military defeat. It goes to the core of an ideology, in their case, one that's jihadist. It's a death-worshipping cult. And that's the nature of our solution for peace in Gaza. I don't know that anyone's changing mind, but changing strategy. There are still, if I'm not mistaken, 59 hostages who are being held. A third to a half of whom are believed to be alive. That we know that they've been suffering tremendous psychological and physical torture, as well as deprivation of any medical service and basic food stuff. So that's a big issue. The question, I think, is ultimately tactic. If we're just going to rely on Hamas to realize that they need to negotiate, and by being good negotiating partners, we'll come up with a resolution and eventually, hopefully, bring all of the hostages out of Gaza. I think that we've proven in the last year and a half, if we didn't know it before, that that's kind of a foolish premise. So if that's the case, then there's no alternative, unfortunately, but to turn up the pressure physically.
Wow.
Oh, well, it appears to me Israel is making up their mind. We're going in.
Yeah. How long can they let this thing drag out?
They can't.
Yeah.
Because on the backside of this is Syria, with all of its problems. Mm-hmm. Hezbollah is been down but not out. Houthis have taken a hit. Bottom line is they have to go for the head of the snake.
Right.
And that's clearly on the table. We just don't know the details of it. So, all right. Good morning to you. Well, today is Poultry Day.
It is.
Now you can kiss a chicken, raise chickens. You can get some eggs.
Hey, and you can get eggs now, can't you?
You can have turkey.
And prices are going down, right?
Yeah.
Okay.
You can have turkey. You can have quail. You can have duck. What other game have you had in the way of
geese?
Geese.
Yeah,
I've had a goose before.
Yeah, Yep.
You ever had a bald eagle?
No, we're going to pass on that one.
Well, they're pretty tender. We'll be right back.
Stewardship begins with the knowledge that nothing belongs to us, but everything belongs to the Lord. This helps us to run a business not in the fear of lack, but in the assurance of His care and provision. Such a perspective eliminates the drive to sell and replaces it with a heart that says serve. This begins with serving our clients and coworkers with integrity and genuine care. That's why McKelly's is automotive service with a heart for God and treating others as we ourselves would want to be treated. Our promise is to never sell our clients anything we don't believe they need. Another is to do all we can to meet other needs, such as shuttle service and loaner cars, or taking the time to really listen, even at times praying with our customers. Sometimes this means sacrifice, going above and beyond. But that's why I work for Kelly's Automotive Service, honoring God while serving people with honesty and integrity.
I'm holding the many prayer requests that arrive here at theDove. We're grateful that you include us with your prayer needs. As a staff, know that we join you and pray over your requests for God's help. Have a prayer need? Let us know by going to thedove.us.
Hello, everyone in Dove Land. My name is Todd Friel, host of Wretched TV, inviting you to join us for Wretched, the TV program I host. If you have evangelism heebie-jeebies, you're terrified to share your faith.
Okay, good morning to you. Well, this is an interesting piece of information, and it's making headlines in certain areas, but it appears, with all due respect, that the Democratic Party or the Democratic machine is in a spiral, is in an auguring down at a level we've never seen before. And it's significant when Chuck Schumer has to go to the View to get help and then get pounded on. It's a different day. So how bad is it? Well, Mitchell Brown was talking about this, and here's what he had to say.
First of all, the mood of the country. This really jumped out. We asked folks, is it on the right direction or the wrong direction? That 44% you say right direction, that's up since November. And if that doesn't seem like a lot, the last time it cracked 40%, you got to go back to 2012. The last time it actually hit 44 or higher, January of 2004. So a lot of this is Republicans, but independents, that number is also up since the election on the direction of the country.
Yeah, that's almost identical to the numbers that we have. Why this is happening, the sentiment behind it relates a lot to just what people view as a return to normalcy. It feels like they can comprehend what's going on. They might say, okay, it's going to take a little bit of time for us to fiscally feel these changes, but environmentally and what they're hearing about people talking about publicly makes them more comfortable with the direction of the country. The one interesting point here, though, is I've seen this number rise, but the direction of the world number decline. People are slightly more worried about what's going to happen world stage now, but they're reassured that we're going to return to some type of normalcy here in America.
Isn't that interesting?
Well, prior to that, he gave the statistics that Democrats were sitting at 60% approval rate. Today it's 29%. That's a dump and a decline at a level that is, you wonder, is it recoverable? So what the Democrats are saying is, all right, well, and especially the consultants out there, Carville and these other guys are yelling at the Democrats to knock it off. Play possum, do something, stop all this stuff. So I suspect what you're going to hear from the Democrats is a little bit more of a softer message, a little bit moving to the middle. But it's nothing more than a decoy.
Right.
That's all it is.
And are they really going to do that? I mean, look at Chuck Schumer. He wanted to work with Republicans and get this bill passed. And he has been, scorched for it. And they're even talking now about, putting up AOC to run against him. So are they actually trying to move to the center, or are they just blind to what happened in the last election and continue a hard left turn?
Well, the only thing I can say, remember the book called Good News for America, and we had the doctor on that wrote that book.
Was it Lamero?
Lamero.
Yeah.
Excuse me.
All right.
I had a brain freeze there. It happens when you have too much orange in the morning.
I know.
So anyway, he said this, and I think now it's starting to come to pass, and that is the left's going to go so far left, it's going to leave a lot of Democrats kind of moving away from the radical part. the Republicans are going real far right. Now, some are way out there, but the MAGA movement has split the Republican Party. So the rhinos and the leftover lefts are going to kind of come together. Now, are they going to become independents? Is that going to be the voting bloc? In the state of Oregon, it is the big number.
Yeah.
It's the big number.
Yeah.
So what that tells you is that people want to balance. You know, we want to balance. So it's like the pendulum has been way over here. It's been crazy.
Right.
Now it's way over here.
Yeah.
And so it takes this way over here to bring it back here.
Yeah.
And that's kind of what's going to happen. And it just takes time, and we don't have patience anymore.
Yeah, and I think it's surprising. You know, you talk about the generational turns and stuff, and I think we're seeing that play out. I especially am impressed with the continued work of Charlie Kirk and what he does on college campuses. And I've been listening to his podcast, and he does the question and answer where, you know, basically he says, prove me wrong, and he invites liberals up, you know, the liberal kids. And when he first started, I mean, he was bombarded with protesters and people trying to disrupt. They had to call police in a number of times because the people destroyed signs and such. Well, it's swung the other way now on campus. It's amazing the support that is coming out for him, and in fact, he sometimes has to calm down his supporters to allow, you know, one of these liberal students to question him. He's like, calm down, show respect, let them talk. Let them talk. But I think the groundswell of support has been really an eye-opener for me, and I can't help but think that's going to continue.
It will continue because young people are waking up to the fact that they've been lied to.
Yeah.
The only thing that wins a young person and changes their mind is only one thing. Authenticity in what you believe.
Yeah.
Now, there was no authenticity of the message of the left's nonsense.
Right.
It didn't fulfill what they thought it was going to do. So now they're seeking, and as they come back, they're looking for real relationships. They're looking for real answers. The Bible is pretty clear about this. Only the truth will set you free.
Right.
And they overhear the lie. It wasn't authentic. It left them empty. Now they're moving back and they're searching for the truth. All I can say is I hope and pray to God we are awake and ready for the harvest.
Absolutely. And it's so true because you're right. They're looking for the truth. We have seen the video of Democrat leaders all the way from the Clintons through Barack Obama talking about a secure border, talking about women's rights. Talking about these things that they didn't do anything about, and it went the other way. So you're right. People are looking for the truth.
Yeah, isn't it interesting? Sooner or later, you actually have to do the job.
Yeah. What about that? Yeah.
Okay.
Anybody interesting?
Oh, yeah. I got Dr. Tim Murphy coming on. This is really interesting. What the government cuts, it's kind of sent people into a tizzy.
Oh, yeah.
Is the tizzy going to result in an increase in mental health?
Yeah, I think it's happening.
So I'm going to ask him this question.
Okay.
How dangerous are we of taking somebody that's having an emotionally bad day and diagnosing them with mental health?
Yeah.
What's wrong with just having a bad day?
Right. Yeah.
Why does it have to be classified?
We'll
talk about
that. Good question.
Right.
Okay, well, the world's first and possibly only orchestra exclusively to make music from vegetables carved into instruments has been awarded a Guinness World Record. Let's take a look.
The 11-piece vegetable orchestra formed in Vienna, Austria in 1999 when musicians of various backgrounds came together with the idea of carving veggies into instruments. Founding member Matthias Meinharder said it all started as a joke. He said the founding 4 members had been signed up for a performance art festival in Vienna, and we were brainstorming what we could do, and we thought, what's the most difficult thing to play music on? We were making soup together at the time, and one thing led to another. The performers have now perfected the art of playing with their food. Their instruments include carrots carved into recorders and leeks into mandolins. The musicians said they carve fresh vegetables before every performance, as their instruments only last for about 6 hours before starting to rot or lose their shape. Any unused vegetables are made into a soup to be served at the concert, and the spent instruments are turned into organic waste to keep the concerts eco-friendly. The orchestra told Guinness World Records that only one subject is off limits during their concerts, asking whether the musicians are vegetarians. They stated emphatically, "No, we are not. Don't ask again. We've heard this question 3 million times."
Reminds me, I was fighting a big salmon on the river one day, and it was a big fish, and I was having trouble getting it. And I'm fighting, and all of a sudden one of my buddies down the river yells at me. He goes, "Hey, Jerry, quit playing with your food."
Well, that's pretty interesting. I think you ought to come out Sunday and lead worship with a string bean or something.
Celery stalk or
a celery
something.
Stock,
Yeah,
you know?
there you go.
There you go.
Man.
But if it's celery stock, have some peanut butter on it.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. All right, good morning to you. 1 John, not the Gospel of John, but 1 John chapter 3, verse 22. And whatever we ask, we receive from him. Why? Because we keep his commandments and do what pleases him. There's the key. Mm-hmm. Keep the commandments, do what pleases him, and have a good day.
And it's all yours, God. Yours, God. Everything is yours. You're the maker.
Hey, this is Ed, co-owner of Visiting Angels. To continue to serve our seniors, we need more caregivers with a heart to serve. Our mission statement is honoring the art of giving, which means we honor you, the caregiver. We know it's our people that make Visiting Angels the best in-home care provider and a great place to work. Come be our next amazing caregiver. Give us a call or apply online. At Visiting Angels, we're committed to you because we honor the art of giving.
What if your next ride was more than just a ride?
What if it was an epic adventure filled with unforgettable memories?
At Panoramic Moto Tours, we take you beyond the ordinary, offering curated routes, privately guided with all the details handled.
Our passion is to share the joy of riding incredible roads, exploring new sights and towns, and connecting with others and sharing our stories.
Sound good to you?
What are you waiting for? Let's create your custom tour, or join us on one of our upcoming tours.
The Lost Coast and Trinity Alps, May 16th through the 19th, or the Oregon Coast and Cascades Tour, June 22nd through the 26th. Just click the Tours tab at panoramicmototours.com or call 541-622-3844.
panoramicmototours.com. Your next adventure starts here.
In the heart of the Rogue Valley, RVTD connects us all, not just through miles traveled, but also through time. With renewable technologies and more convenient ways to get around, RVTD's building a future that keeps our region connected. Public transportation isn't just about getting from here to there. It's about the journey, past, present, and future. Rogue Valley Transportation District, celebrating 50 years of moving our community forward.
You might have said, as many people have said to me, Alex, it's too late. I've wasted years. I'm too far gone. Please don't believe that lie. You can call out to Christ. He will hear you. He will receive you. He has a plan for you. You might have a short time left in this world, you think. God still has a plan for you. And today, God's will for your life will become operative as you turn to Him.
Piercing the darkness with the light of truth. Pathway to Victory with Dr. Robert Jeffress on the Dove TV. Encouraging and informative.
Okay, welcome back, and welcome to Focus Today. I'm your host, Perry Atkinson. Always delighted and honored when I have a couple of moments to sit down with Dr. Tim Murphy. He's a licensed psychologist and a clinical director of the Fortis Future, which is a center focusing on the care of veterans, military, and first responders with PTSD. Dr. Murphy also was elected to the U.S. House of Representatives from Pennsylvania's 18th Congressional District 8 times, so he has that dirty T-shirt. Is the author of, I think, a book that you have to have in your office or library if you deal with people. It's called The Christ Cure, 10 Biblical Ways to Heal from Trauma, Tragedy, and PTSD. Now, he's done his homework here, and this is a great resource. Check it out. He does have a website, drtimmurphy.com. Dr. Murphy, good to see you, friend. How are you?
I'm doing well. Great to be with you again, Perry.
Thank you for your time. This is an interesting question and topic today. We're watching people really lose it over the proposed cuts in government restructuring. And I understand that when your livelihood maybe is threatened, that creates a lot of emotions. But I'm also concerned that this would trigger another level of a description of mental health. What's your take?
Yeah, well, let's look at a couple of things you mentioned there. With government restructuring, there's a certain type of leadership called disruptive leadership. And that is when you say, let's look at where we want to be, but that we don't have to continue to do things the same way to get there. In our nation, our ideals of freedom and liberty are important. But what we've drifted into, slowly slouching, I guess, towards it is really one way of saying there are no standards anymore. There really isn't a constitution. It is whatever you want it to be. The famous Shakespearean quote is, nothing is either bad nor good, but thinking makes it so. And so what has happened is there's been an intentional change in defining morality on your own terms, and then pushing away people who believe that there's a God or there's religion or there's a higher standard that we should be adhering to, even a constitution. Remember, we're a constitutional republic, and in that, we don't just get to vote on things in majority rules, but our constitution was meant to protect the minority. But here's what's happened over time. We have ended up with massive government programs to take over everything, to make decisions for us. Maybe it started off as a good idea. Here were some people who were impoverished. We want to help feed them. Lyndon Johnson started the war on poverty. But since then, we've spent tens of trillions of dollars, and we have more poverty than before. Then what happens is, along comes President Trump, Elon Musk, and their team, and says, we're going to change things here. And one of the things they're going to change is saying, we're just spending too much money. We can't sustain a debt where we're spending $1 trillion a year just to pay off the interest on the debt before anything else. So that means some things are going to get cut. Now, I guess some aspects of this have been like a bull in the china shop, saying we're just going to start off with a 10% cut and work from there. And one would hope that some of this would also be a matter of saying, well, where do we really need to cut? What is the waste, fraud, and abuse? Let's look at that first. So this has been disruptive to people who have been in a comfort zone for all of us. I know among my veteran friends, when we hear that the VA has had some cuts, and right away rumors come out. And newspapers are happy to publish rumors. They'll even say it is rumored that the VA is going to cut 10% or 20% or 50%, and other programs are going to cut. But they'll say it's a rumor. And they'll say, well, it's a rumor, but I'm going to tell you anyways and scare you. And that is unfair and unfortunate. But then we find out more to say, well, we're not going to cut benefits for veterans. As a matter of fact, the VA, when back in the year 2010, there was 23 million veterans in the United States. And then today, it's by 2018, 2023, it became more like 18 million. So do we really need as many people? And there was a big surge of hiring a few years ago with what's called the PACT Act. That was to take care of people who were injured in smoke pits. But we get so used to having big government, we forget to say, do we really need this? It's sort of like the family that has a big house and their kids are gone off to college, they all got married, and the family says, do we really need a 5-bedroom house anymore? Or a 3-bedroom house? Maybe we can move into something smaller in a condo. And it really is saying, what is affordable to us? What do we really have to have? But that scares people who are used to having things a certain way. Now, the key thing in your question is, does it really become mental illness? Well, we can talk ourselves into that and say, this is a crisis by which I cannot get my way out of. So you have the one hand where there's some cuts that we really need to take a more careful look at and say, you don't need to cut all these jobs in the Department of Justice because we need to prosecute criminals. On the other hand, it is healthy to say, what do we really need? And ask that question. And that is a mature thing to do. That is a thing that we all ought to be doing in our lives anyways. And then look from that point on.
Because one of the things that seems to be coming out of this is we're seeing the significant difference of being employed by government versus being employed by, by a company, by private enterprise. There's a huge difference in not only accountability but in benefits. And when all of a sudden, when that's being threatened, I can understand the emotional setback. But part of this today, and I'm wondering if President Trump, Elon Musk, others are looking at this. A CEO has a job to do two things: keep his eye on the vision and an eye on the bottom line. But the span between the vision and the bottom line are the people. And I'm wondering, are we going too fast here? It has to be done in order to keep the company alive, so to speak. But are we going too fast?
Well, I must say, I think in some ways we are going too fast. I think it'd be better to sell this in terms of let's go systematically through this and see what is really needed, do an accounting. Because in a company that's saying, look, we're spending too much money, we're not making money anymore, we have to find out what do we really need to do. Do we need to sell off parts of the company? Do we need to make something more efficient? Those are the questions to ask. What has happened, however, is a concern is that some of the places that money has been going is being hidden. And so as they look at this using artificial intelligence to scan through, particularly through things through USAID, they start to find accounts that are hidden. Okay, I understand that. Go after those things quickly. But another thing is it is much better to be systematic. Now, I understand Congress has said, here's the budget coming up, and we're going to aim for this amount of money to be cut. And then it is up to the secretaries and the departments to say, what do we really need and what do we really not need? For example, the big one is, what do we need in terms of a Department of Education? What's helpful, what's not helpful? Should we return money to states, return money to people? But the idea of just going at this and saying we're just going to make all these massive cuts, we do have to understand, as you said, these are people, these are families. They've got bills to pay, and suddenly come and see they get a text message and say, don't come to work tomorrow, you're not working here anymore. I think we would all say that that's probably too harsh. And it ought to be calmer and more systematic and help people transition to other jobs.
Is losing your job a PTSD moment?
It sure is. A financial devastation for someone. I mean, one person who may say, well, I have another job lined up. I saw this coming. Okay, there's a transition involved. But generally, one of the major stresses in life is losing a job. Even changing to a new job is a major stress. But when you find out you've been fired and say, I don't have money, I don't have savings, I can't go the next month's bills, I have car payments, I have rent and everything, it can be hugely devastating, whether you're an individual or a family. Then what we see is a great deal of stress. And if a person says, I'm even losing my health care, I don't have anybody to go to even talk to about this. Yeah, it can be very overwhelming. We need to be sensitive to that. And then I see that, for example, rumors are that Substance Abuse and Mental Health Services Administration, otherwise known as SAMHSA, is also receiving large cuts. Well, that's an organization that should be giving grants to work on things like substance abuse and serious mental illness and homelessness and the rest. That's an organization I've investigated thoroughly in my time in Congress, looking at where there has been waste and misspent money. And I think that we should go after and say there needs to be accountability. Stop giving out grants for silly purposes. It's not up to the federal government to fund yoga classes and relaxation and diet and nutrition. But it is a place where the federal government could say, we'll have money to help go to your community to deal with these problems, but use accountability and make sure you're returning ultimately a lot of that responsibility to states, counties, and communities to help take care of things. Because if we always push things upward and expect Uncle Sam to take care of it, we're not doing our part. But it comes down to this point, by going too fast, as much as I respect and admire, we need to cut these many, many things. There are people here, and we need to be sensitive and compassionate to them.
Why has taking personal responsibility become an issue?
Well, it's been, to grow government, you have to have government say, we can do it better than you. Ultimately, this gets in the areas of communism, socialism, totalitarianism, where the government or a dictator says, we're going to do this for you. They convince people they're not competent to do them themselves. If you look at historically, in order to do that, what a government such as communist governments want to do then is they have to make it so they have to take God out of the picture. You have to have religion out of the picture because you can't have anything above big government. And you'll notice over the last 3 years, we've been pushing away religion, all religions, particularly Christianity and Judaism, and saying we don't want them discussed in the classroom, in the public places. We don't want prayers before town meetings or anything. And yet what faith does is it puts a lot of responsibility on the person. I mean, we know Jesus' messages are, don't worry, do what you want. I'll take care of it at the end. Grace will save you. Go on, have fun. No, it's you got to do this. You got to work at it and work at it all the time, not only for yourself, but helping other people. But when government wants to grow, they like to say, you're not competent to do this. Well, we're going to do it for you. As a matter of fact, it's okay to complain you're not competent and expect everybody else to step out of the way to take care of you and not expect you to take care of yourself. That's when we've gotten pretty harmful. And I think that's been a big backlash of the rest of the community who say, why do I have to listen to what you're saying that you don't want to work or your coffee was not warm enough so you're going to be late for work? Take responsibility. Life is tough. Get in there.
So what I'm hearing you say, and I think we have to be honest here, that a lot of these programs end up being enablers.
Yes. They end up being enablers.
And I think we have to be honest with that. And if it's enabling people to be dependent upon, then the whole subject of personal responsibility becomes almost fearful.
Sure, because we've trained a couple generations to have someone else do it. We have kids who, with bulldozer parents who didn't want their children to suffer any stress at school. They'd complain to teachers when the child got a D. They didn't study. They deserved it. And the teacher has to bump it up to a higher level. The enabling is when we say we're going to do it for you because you're not competent. I mean, think about this. Do you see any commercials sponsored at any media source, sponsored by the federal, state, local governments, saying, do this to take care of yourself? It is call this number, take care of go to this program. And okay, it's good to have those resources available. But can you imagine if we told people, big health problem is obesity. Instead of just going and take this drug and you're going to lose weight, watch your diet. Get out and exercise. Massive numbers of people are obese, increasing health problems, increasing healthcare costs. But I don't see any commercials like there used to be back. I'm old enough to remember being a kid in the John Kennedy era, where there was a big push for the President's Council on Physical Fitness. You were supposed to be working at it all the day. You were supposed to be healthy. That was the big push. Walk places, exercise, be able to do these things at school. You don't see that now. Now it's constantly saying that we're not allowed to shame someone. I'm not saying we should shame one, but we're not allowed to call someone's attention to that, accept everything. Well, there's a need to take personal responsibility. Say if you're out of shape, get in shape. If you're not healthy, do what you can to get healthy. Yes, we'll help those who are poor, who are homeless, who are in prison, and take care of those as Jesus told us to. But when you can take care of yourself, it's not right to expect other people to take care of you. That's the unfair part.
Pretty interesting. All right, let me take a break here. Let me say to our viewers and listeners, Dr. Murphy has a website, drtimmurphy.com, and you certainly want to Google and get his book called The Christ Cure, 10 Biblical Ways to Heal from Trauma, Tragedy, and PTSD. When we get back, I want to bring the faith factor back into the conversation, Dr. Murphy, because this is an element that has to be considered, and a lot of people overlook it. So we'll be right back.
Your property demands equipment with more reliability, durability, and versatility built in. Kubota equipment is ready to get the job done right.
Hi, I'm the SOS Alarm guy, here to tell you about a great deal. SOS Alarm will not only beat any internet deal, but will install the system too. So burglars, beware. SOS Alarm for security and beyond.
At Sweet Tea Express, we've got you covered. Order at the counter and our friendly service staff will do the rest. Breakfast served daily until 2 p.m. Breakfast burritos, biscuits and gravy, skillets, omelets, and more. Sweet Tea Express. Don't get caught hungry.
Welcome to Rise Direct Primary Care. Imagine a healthcare experience where you're known by name, cared for like family, and treated with compassion. How is that possible? With an affordable, flat monthly membership, you receive unlimited primary care and minor urgent care visits. No insurance needed. At Rise Direct Primary Care, we offer a friendly, affordable healthcare experience where you get a whole hour with your provider. Located in Central Medford and accessible by phone or text, we can typically get you in the same or next day. We prescribe urgent care medications directly from our office, saving you a trip and wait time at the pharmacy when you'd rather be at home getting better. Personalized medical care with a human touch. Rise Direct Primary Care is all about healing the sick with compassion and keeping the healthy healthy. Rise Direct Primary Care. We're here for you. Visit risehealthdpc.com or call or text us 541-827-8603. 541-827-8603.
For a free copy of The Word for You Today Quarterly Devotional, visit theDove.us.
Welcome back. An honor to have back with us today Dr. Tim Murphy is a licensed psychologist. He's wrote a book that's just really a great resource. It's called The Christ Cure, 10 Biblical Ways to Heal from Trauma, Tragedy, and PTSD. There's a picture of the cover of the book. Great resource. You should have it in your office. You deal with people. This is a must resource. And then he does have a website, drtimmurphy.com. Dr. Murphy was trying to figure out how to ask this question. Faith in mental health, a huge factor in a lot of ways. It's left out, and I know your heart is to keep it in. I just got through reading a book dealing with the depression that the late Charles Spurgeon dealt with in his life. It was very significant, and the commentary of the book was very interesting. And I come to the conclusion that when you're dealing with depression at any level, but especially the deep, deep level, it's hard to even insert faith in there. Those of us who don't deal with that, or at least not, and I'm not talking depression about having a bad day, I'm talking stuff that's really clinically deep in somebody's soul and heart. How do we go about giving them the hope of the gospel?
A brilliant question, and because it is something we need to address in all of our lives. So we all have times of sadness. Sadness is normal. We have times of stress. Stress is normal. What do they say? Stress is mandatory, misery is optional. But when it comes to another level of deep depression, the body is actually shutting down in many ways. The brain is actually reaching a level where the whole body, with a great deal of stress hormones and with with inflammation in the brain, there's chemical changes that actually change the architecture of the brain, and it's tough to get out of it. You know, we could use the saying stuck in a rut. Now imagine that way, that you're stuck in a rut that's so deep you cannot see over it, you cannot see a way out. And that is part of the darkness that is in there with depression. And with medication, sometimes that can be helpful. With other supports, other clinical techniques, that can be helpful. But a person may slide back into it. The way the gospel can help in this is always have people around, maybe they're professional coaches, maybe they're mental health coaches, Christian mental health coaches, but ones who are really there to continue to support the person. Because when we're super depressed, the thoughts we have in our head, not like hearing a voice, but the thoughts we have in our head continue to say, there is no hope. You can't get out of this. And what happens is people may not want to be around you anymore on two levels. One, they think, you're a real downer to talk to. I don't want to be down. And the other person also feels, I don't want to bring people down. People probably don't want to be around me. I'm making them miserable. And it can get so deep and so dark. And the worst case is a person thinks, I think I'm better off dead. Not actively looking at suicide, but just thinking, like Noah, Nineveh, take me. Take me now, like Job saying, I don't want to live anymore. Can you just get me out of here? And it is that deep. It is that dark. So the gospel is a constant message of helping people to understand, number one, Just because you're thinking it doesn't mean it's true. And I'm going to say something that's going to sound a little bit insensitive, but it's true. I remember years ago, a professor telling me that sometimes one of my jobs as a psychologist is to convince people not to believe every stupid thing we think. And so if we are saying things to ourselves like, no one loves me, there's no hope in this world, there is no good in the world, just because we think it doesn't mean it's true. And that's where the gospel message of hope, of love, of faith, of trust in God, that even when things are very dark and we don't see a reason for it, we don't always have to figure it out to know that there still can be a reason. And that is the belief that when a person is surrounded by people within the faith community, that's a really critically important part. But you need the psychological methods, the medical methods, the faith messages, all combining together. We know there's been voluminous studies that say that those who are most likely to get out of addiction or prevent drug problems are those who regularly practice religion. I'm not talking about occasional believers, that they say, yeah, there's something out there, something spiritual. I mean something who really practice religion. That is the key factor. I mean, something like 80 or 90% of studies support that idea. But when a person is dealing with addiction and they've tried to get off, and they've tried to get off, and they've been through treatment programs, one after another, very often it's not uncommon to see someone go through 8 or 9 or 10 drug treatment programs before something finally sticks. It is the continuity of the faith message which continues to help people bring back hope in their life and overcome that depression. And then as a person maintains that healthiness with fitness and right diet and sleep and mental attitudes, those are all part of it. You can't just think your way out of it. It's all those things together. And here's a way that churches can really help.
Well, what I'm learning from this, a couple things. It's deeper than I thought, number one. Number two, I'm a lay counselor. I'm not a professional. I just get a lot of people in my office with problems. And thank you for your book. But here's something I learned, and that is it's somebody who's suffering with depression, deep, and they have been with people that spiritually condemned them. It's kind of like a double whammy.
Oh,
and and where you lead from there is very delicate.
Yeah, even biblically, it used to be believed that when someone had problems, you look at the sins of their fathers as being part of that. The New Covenant tells us no, that we really are looking at things with ourselves. In fact, Jesus says, don't worry about yesterday, pay attention today. That's what we should be doing. A wrong type of spiritual counseling is to tell someone, well, you're not praying enough, or you're not reading the Bible enough, or maybe you're doing it wrong, or what else is taking place. That is not going to help. That kind of shaming of someone is not going to help. What I tell people, it's okay if you've done something wrong. It's okay and appropriate to feel guilt. That means your soul works. When that occurs, you say, okay, what did I do wrong? What do I need to confess, reconcile, repent? All those things are part of it, because those are actions one can take to heal, to get to forgiveness. Shame blocks forgiveness. So when we tell people you're not good enough to be healed, well, that doesn't sound like Jesus' words to me. But here's part of the problem, Harry. You mentioned you're a lay counselor, but among clergy, about 85 to 90% say they really don't have much training in counseling, and they look for more. That's why one of the reasons I wrote my book, The Christ Cure, was to help clergy who want to know what methods do I use to help someone, and to help the lay person to know what kind of biblical methods are there to help someone too, since this is where some of the best payoff is. So it's learning these methods, but putting them all together. And I might say in this, I don't know how many mental health clinics there are in America, maybe one per county in some cases, maybe in some cases none. How many psychiatric hospitals are in America? Maybe 30-some thousand. But there's 370,000 churches in America. Can you imagine what would happen if we change is to train more clergy, more lay counselors, maybe more mental health coaches within churches? What could be done to unleash the power of faith and mental health and healing? I know we now have a faith office back in the White House in the West Wing. And she is dedicated towards this issue, too, of making sure we do say, how do we get more training back into the churches? And not every pastor can be spending their time on this, but certainly they can have a mental health ministry with people there who know what can I look for and when do I need to refer someone on, plus looking at all the preventative methods of fitness and mental attitudes and sleep and right diet. Those are all in there. And you know what? The Bible does talk about diet. Go look up what Daniel ate. The Bible does talk about the importance of sleep and rest. The Bible does talk about, read Paul. He doesn't sit around slouching. He says, you got to get out there and work it all the time. Those are all important parts of mental health. In fact, we know fitness and diet can be more effective than medication for mild and moderate depression, and certainly important parts of diet. But those are more important than ever shaming someone when they feel depressed, because depression, it's hard to get out of it as it is.
Well, again, I'm not the professional here at any level, but one thing I have learned from this is that after reading this book and going through this experience, I'm probably guilty of not having enough patience. But what I've learned from this book, probably the best thing you can do is just listen. And say nothing. There is nothing you can say that's going to change the situation, but you're giving them an opportunity to vent. That has to be therapeutic.
It is therapeutic if the person knows you're being compassionate. I mean, sometimes people say, well, how can you listen to people's problems all day? And maybe the psychiatrist says, well, who listens? That's not the right technique. The idea is to listen with compassion. And you don't have to have an answer. Sometimes you can say, I hear you. That must be very, very hard. I've never experienced that. I don't know what it's like, but I still feel for you, and I'm here for you, that you're not alone. Mm-hmm. And God tells you, you are not alone. You're never alone. And I'll be with you at your side through this. That is so important for someone, because some of the worst types of trauma are betrayal and abandonment. Ooh. You don't want to abandon someone in their moment of need. Maybe they're going through the divorce or death of a spouse or death of a child or a bad diagnosis, loss of a job. Being with them during those times can be a great, great help to lead them on that path.
All right, check out the book. It's called The Christ Cure, 10 Biblical Ways to Heal from Trauma, Tragedy, and PTSD. This is an amazing resource. If you're a pastor, get this book. If you're just a person dealing with a lot of people, deal with this book. There's so many resources and aids. You'll probably end up writing in the margins. DrTimMurphy.com is the website, DrTimMurphy.com. Thank you, Dr. Murphy. You're a blessing, friend. Thanks for your work, and let's stay connected.
Thank you very much. God bless, Perry.
You too.
Come fall in love with Northridge Senior Living, where contemporary sunlit interiors meet old world elegance. Walk through our lovely hallways and enjoy the fun staff-led activities. Forge lasting friendships with other residents and our exceptional caregivers. Dine in style. Gather near the fireplace under breathtaking chandeliers. Our reasonably priced apartments are spacious with private balconies. Northridge is Christian-owned and operated, pet-friendly, and only 2 blocks from Asante Rogue Regional Medical Center. On-site 24/7 in-home care is available. We also offer senior adult daycare where your loved one can spend the day with us and the evenings with you. Northridge Senior Living, your home.
The Dove is encouraging and informative. Here's what our viewers are saying.
I watch you every day. Keep doing what you are doing. God bless all that you do.
Thank you for each of you for what you do in the name of the Lord. You are a blessing.
Sending love and blessings to the Dove. We are so thrilled to have you in our lives.
Thanks for sharing your encouragement. We appreciate it and love to hear from our viewers. You can support the Dove at thedove.us. Thank you.
Romans 1:20 tells us God's power is revealed in creation. Yet 2 Corinthians 4:4 reminds us that Satan has blinded many to the gospel. At the Life Outdoors, we've seen the truth of God, His eternal power and divine nature displayed in every mountain and stream. Follow along and let's wake the wild within. The mountains don't lie. Where there's truth, there's Jesus.
And we are honored to have back with us today Jonathan Tobin. He's the editor-in-chief of the Jewish News Syndicate and the host of The Top Story with Jonathan Tobin there at JNS. He's a senior contributor to The Federalist and columnist for the New York Post, Newsweek, and other outlets. And, of course, their website is jns.org, which stands for the Jewish News Syndicate, jns.org. You can check that out. Jonathan, good to see you again, friend. How are you?
Great to be back with you, Perry. Thank you.
Thank you for your time. So, what happened to the ceasefire?
Well, the ceasefire ended because Hamas thought it could just string it out endlessly. There's no question that the Trump administration and Trump's envoy, Steve Witkoff, was interested in negotiating another phase of the ceasefire. But Hamas just thinks it has all the cards and all the time in the world, and it really doesn't have any intention of releasing all of the hostages, which is both the Israeli and the American position. And so Israel, with American support, is sending Hamas a message that its crimes will not go unpunished forever. It cannot hold on to these poor people indefinitely, as well as the corpses of those that they have murdered, and that if they want a ceasefire to continue, they have got to produce these hostages. They've got to release them. They are not in a position to be dictating terms to Israel or the United States, and that's why the ceasefire broke down.
Is this a change in Israel's position? It's kind of like we're done now. We're going for it.
I think to some extent it is. We have to understand Prime Minister Netanyahu is under, conflicting pressures. There is enormous pressure on him from the families of the hostages who are supported by Netanyahu's political opponents, somewhat cynically. And of course, we understand the family's position. If it were our loved ones, who wouldn't trade the whole world for a spouse, a child, a sibling? I mean, we understand that. But Netanyahu's responsibilities are to guard the whole nation of Israel and the Jewish people. And he's got to balance that with the need that if he does a deal with Hamas, that puts them in a position that they will stay in power in Gaza indefinitely. That's just a guarantee of more October 7th, more terrorisms, more atrocities, more people being taken hostage, more people being murdered. He can't allow that. Now, what's changed is not so much Netanyahu's position, but the position of the United States. From October 7th through January 20th of this year, the position of the United States was that Israel's got to keep making concessions. That it can't pursue the war against Hamas with the vigor it needs to take. And that, the Biden-Harris administration really hamstrung Israel's efforts to defeat Hamas. Netanyahu withstood that pressure pretty well, but, there were places he couldn't go. And the change is now that Trump's position is one of moral clarity. The statements from him and from Secretary of State Marco Rubio have made it clear that what Hamas has done will not be tolerated. Their efforts to hold on to these hostages indefinitely, to allow themselves to stay in power in Gaza indefinitely, will not be allowed. That's what's changed. And that's why Israel is doing what it needs to do.
So, this is a hard question, Jonathan, but so what incentive does Hamas have to release the hostages? Because at the end of the day, they won't be allowed to exist anymore.
That's an excellent question. And in the end, I'm not sure that anything will really work to motivate them to do the right thing and release these hostages. They don't care about their own people, let alone the Israelis whom they've kidnapped. They will hold on to power as long as possible. They think that the more people who get killed, especially, their own Palestinian people, the better their PR is. And to some extent, they aren't wrong. We see how the mainstream media in this country, never mind the rest of the world, treats Israel's efforts to eradicate Hamas. It treat the big lie about genocide and war crimes. They're looking for they don't really want there to be a peaceful solution to this. They will never surrender power. They will never disarm. But I think in the past, the Biden administration, and to be fair, Trump and his envoy in the weeks before he took office, he was very eager to get good imagery on the day of the inauguration that there was a ceasefire. He pushed for a ceasefire on the terms that Biden had been pushing for, and that's the ceasefire that was agreed to in January. Now I think the administration realizes, some people have been released, which is good. Obviously, we rejoice in that, as barbarous as Hamas's behavior in doing it has been. But I think the administration has come to the realization that we can only go so far with this, and that unless the next phase is of these negotiations brings the release of all the hostages, Israel has a green light to resume its campaign to eradicate Hamas, which is the only long-term solution for Gaza and for the conflict. And the sooner that Hamas is completely defeated, and that ideas like President Trump's for rebuilding Gaza are allowed to start, to be considered seriously, and they can't be considered seriously until Hamas is completely defeated, there's really not that much to talk about, as much as Israel's going to keep negotiating as long as people are alive. The hostages are alive. As I said, there's really terrible pressure on Netanyahu to do whatever he can to save those lives, regardless of what it costs Israel. But in the end, the two goals of defeating Hamas and getting all the hostages out, the honest answer is that they're mutually exclusive. It's not going to, you can't have both. And the right thing for Israel is to defeat Hamas. That's a terrible thing to say. That's a hard thing to say to the hostage families, because we want them all to, we're praying for them. We want them to be released, these hostages. But, they are the insurance. They are the leverage that Hamas thinks it has, but they can't be allowed to continue in power there.
I think what makes this so difficult, and I want to say this respectfully, we in the West don't understand the mentality of a death cult. We don't get that. But when you look at the numbers, of 59 remaining, 24 are alive and 35 are dead. The numbers are going in the wrong direction, and they don't care about human life. So the only question I have at the moment is, what happened to the Houthis in Yemen? Did that send any kind of a signal to Hamas?
I don't know that, listen, Hamas's leadership doesn't care what happens in Yemen. They don't care what happens to the Houthis. They honestly, as I said before, they don't care what happens to their own people. They want to see more of their own people killed because they think it's good for them. That's how sick that is. And you're right to label it as a death cult. It is a death cult. The trouble with the conflict between Israel and the Palestinian Arabs, it's not one about territory. If it had been about territory, it would have been over a generation ago. Israel was, Israel tried in the 90s with the Oslo Accords to trade land for peace, and it got land for terror instead. That's the problem. The Palestinian national identity is, unfortunately, inextricably tied up with a century-old war against the Jews, against Zionism, against the right of the Jews to live in their ancient homeland. Until that changes, and it can only change once the Palestinians realize they've been completely defeated and they have to change. They have to change their whole way of thinking, much as the Germans did in the spring of 1945, when they were defeated and their nation, their cities were nothing but rubble. It was time to move on from the Nazi cult of death. It's time for the Palestinians to move on from their cult of death. But unfortunately, unlike in 1945, the rest of the world is cheering them on, telling them, don't give up. They have their supporters. They have, people in this country, like the Hamas supporter who was organizing anti-Semitic pro-Hamas demonstrations at Columbia University, my alma mater. He's a hero to the left in the United States. Even the Democratic Party is trying to get him out, against President Trump's justified effort to deport him. That's why the Palestinians are holding on. That the rest of the world is telling them, you're in the right, Israel's in the wrong. It's a bizarro kind of moral formulation, and it's utterly immoral. But that's why they think, crazy as it may seem, after all the destruction in Gaza, after all the people who have been killed, Hamas thinks it's winning. They have to be convinced that they're not winning, and they aren't.
One last question before I take a break, Jonathan. I think we're all in a shock to find out how complicit Egypt became in all of this. I mean, the tunnels start there, and they were huge tunnels that supplied Hamas, and yet Egypt won't let the Palestinians come over there and find refuge. Were you surprised by this?
A little. I think we've always known, those of us who follow this, always known that there was smuggling from Egypt. I think many of us thought it wasn't as large scale as it has turned out to be, that there wasn't, as we have subsequently learned, so much trafficking between Gaza and Egypt. Hamas makes money from that. Egypt makes money from that. It's discouraging because ostensibly the president of Egypt, General Sisi, has been allied with Israel against his foe, the Muslim Brotherhood, which is the organization from which Hamas sprung. But the culture of Egypt is still very, most Egyptians are still very anti-Israel, very anti-Semitic, not to put too fine a point on it. And I think he has sort of, as Mubarak did, from, even though he was part of a government that formerly was at peace with Israel, it was a cold peace. And I think the pressure on Sisi, it's not about human rights. It's a very brutal regime, but he is feeling this pressure, and I think the peace with Egypt has grown much colder too, even though, it's their blockade. People blame Israel for blockading Gaza. It's Egypt too, but Hamas, certainly the Sisi government is complicit in Hamas's survival, and they do so for their own domestic political reasons.
Yeah. All right, let me take a quick break. Let me say to our viewers and listeners, JNS.org stands for the Jewish News Syndicate. That's the website. There's the picture of the landing page. Check out his host of the top story with Jonathan Tobin there on the JNS website as well. We'll take a quick break. We'll be right back.
The Lennox iComfort S30 thermostat can sense changes in your environment. It even knows when you come and go. So now your home's most important system is also the smartest.
Metal Masters can give you the smartest home comfort system available. It knows when you're away and adjusts when allergens and humidity get uncomfortable. Trust Metal Masters to provide perfect air for your family.
Lennox. Air is life. Make it perfect.
Attention golf lovers and local supporters. Join Rogue Valley Habitat for Humanity's inaugural golf tournament Friday, April 25th at Centennial Golf Course in Medford. 4-person scramble with 9 a.m. shotgun start. $600. Get your dream team, the full VIP treatment, greens, fees, carts, prizes, tournament gear, and banquet tickets. Register by March 1st for our early bird special, a free team player pack worth $100. Time to show off those skills while helping local families achieve affordable homeownership. Register at roguevalleyhabitat.org or call 541-261-3520.
The Bible, when you think about it, is the ultimate group project. Think about this. It was written by over 40 different authors over a period of 1,500 years. Authors came from various countries. Most of them didn't know one another. They used a variety of styles, and yet it all fit together perfectly. It has one unified theme, and that theme is Jesus Christ.
The Dove is touching lives across our network and around the world.
Focus today was outstanding. I'm so proud and grateful that the Dove is willing to share these interviews. A huge thank you to Perry for his exceptional work getting prepared and asking very insightful questions. Well done, and thank you for sharing the truth.
Let us know if the Dove has touched your life. The Dove TV, encouraging and informative. Support the Dove at thedove.us.
Welcome back, and an honor to have back with us today Jonathan Tobin. He's the editor-in-chief of the Jewish News Syndicate, also the host of Top Story with Jonathan Tobin. He's a senior contributor to the Federalist and the columnist for New York Post, Newsweek, and other outlets. The website, jns.org. There's the picture of the landing page. So, Jonathan, all right, I nickname or at least describe Hamas being a death cult. You could add to that Hezbollah, Houthis, and what's happening in Syria. Sooner or later, we have to deal with Iran, and maybe with the approval of Saudi Arabia. How far out do you think that is?
I can't give you a firm answer on that because right now, the United States, the Trump administration, is exploring the possibility of talks with Iran. The president wants to give the Iranians an exit ramp before he ramps up sanctions even harder on them. An attempt to get them to give up their nuclear program and stop their support for terrorism. I'm frankly extremely skeptical about the prospect of such negotiations, even though obviously it would be in Iran's interest to do so. But they're not doing it because for the same reasons they strung along Obama and the Biden administrations. Their goal is a war on the West, not to as in Obama's words, get right with the rest of the world. They don't care about that. That's why they launched this 7-front war against Israel in the last 2 years. Their goals are very different. But of course, there are ways to pressure them. Their economy is very weak. It was revived by Biden's relaxation of sanctions. Once we get back to really tough sanctions, and not just sanctions on them, but making it clear to their European trading partners that if you do business with Iran, you won't do business with the United States. Making it clear to China as well, because the Chinese are major enablers of all of this because they buy 90% of Iran's oil. They have kept that corrupt, brutal, tyrannical regime afloat, imposing its harsh rule on its own people as well as making mischief throughout the region. Despite the many setbacks they've gotten in the last year from the defeat of their auxiliaries, Hezbollah in Lebanon, the fall of the Assad government, which was a real blow to Iran because he was their ally and even puppet. Their Russian allies have been distracted by the war in Ukraine. So there are ways to pressure Iran. But I think for now, the Trump administration has been telling Israel, don't attack Iran yet. I think they may eventually change their mind about that once Trump realizes that his effort to make a deal with them will fail, as it inevitably will. But that's where we're heading with that issue.
Is it possible that suggested talks are nothing more than a decoy?
Well, I don't attempt to read the president's mind, or when our liberal friends do that, they always fail, and I'm not going to go down that rabbit hole. Certainly, Trump believes in the art of the deal, and he has been known to troll both friends and adversaries. Perhaps it's a decoy, but I think actually Trump would like there to be. He doesn't want more wars, and I understand that, and I applaud that. I mean, the American people don't want wars. They don't want to be funding wars. They don't want to be participating in wars, except when it's for their own, to defend our national interest. Now, obviously, it's in our interest for Iran not to be making, causing instability in the world, attacking international shipping in the Red Sea, as they do through the Houthis, attacking our allies, undermining both Saudi Arabia and Israel. He'd like to avoid more conflict. I think he's going to play out, there are cards in his hands. He's going to play those cards. But I think history teaches us that the Iranians aren't interested in giving up their, I don't believe there's almost any circumstance under which they would give up their nuclear program. I don't think that there's even less chance that they would give up their support for terrorism, because that's at the heart of the Islamist creed, which motivates that regime. They're about endless war against the West, not just Israel, but against all of us in the West. Big Satan U.S. as well as little Satan Israel. I think, as much as I understand the president's desire to come to some kind of agreement, that's not going to work. And I think he will find that out sooner or later.
Okay, so in some ways, the question, is being answered in the affirmative. But and what I mean by that is because the president, on the other hand, has been very adamant, and that is Iran cannot have a nuke. And the only way you stop Iran from not having a nuke is to take out the nukes. There's no other way.
There was another way. I don't know that still is that option is still open. Listen, every American president since George W. Bush has made that same vow. But the trouble is, when had Trump been reelected in 2020 and continued with his maximum pressure program against Iran, the Iranian economy would have been brought to its knees. It was almost there anyway. Biden revived it. Negotiations. But in the intervening 4 years, Iran has gotten through cheating and through the weak terms of the nuclear deal that Obama negotiated in the first place. They've gotten really close to a nuclear weapon. Just the week before the October 7th attacks on Israel, the Department of Defense, dropped a Friday afternoon news dump in which they revealed that Iran was only, 10 days away from having enough material to make a nuclear bomb. Well, that was a year and a half ago. They are already a threshold nuclear power. And so, yes, at this point, the only way to take out their nuclear program is to take it out, is through force. That's unfortunate. Frankly, that should have happened a long time ago. Obama prevented Israel from doing so over a decade ago. Right now, that is probably the prospect. But we'll see what happens. Obviously, President Trump wants a good outcome here. Israel will trust him to come to his own conclusion in good time. And when that happens, I think we know what the outcome will be.
One other question in that arena, and that is the citizens of Iran would like to see a regime change. And you've heard of Israel talking about a regime change. If there was a regime change, that'd put a huge pause in the nuclear program, wouldn't it?
Well, in theory, yes. And you're right. The Iranian, the regime is deeply unpopular. It's a terrible, tyrannical, it's a failed government. But, it's kind of an iron rule of history that tyrannies don't fall until they lose their taste for blood, until they are no longer willing to slaughter their own people in the numbers needed to maintain their grip on power. Unfortunately, the Iranian regime and its Islamic Revolutionary Guard Corps that props it up and controls much of its economy, they've shown no sign of being willing to give up power or to allow any rebel movement to succeed. It's kind of up to the Iranian people to topple their government. It would be very hard to do so from the outside and to have any good outcome, as the United States has learned to its sorrow in Afghanistan and Iraq. We're not in the democracy promotion business anymore, rightfully. Yeah. But a regime change would be ideal, but that's got to come from within Iran. That's not something that can be imposed from the outside in any productive way, I think.
Just maybe a personal comment from you. Israel's still standing.
Thank God.
Thank God. And it's now being reinforced with a new relationship with the United States, or at least a meaningful one. That's pretty amazing, isn't it?
Well, as a journalist, I deal in what is. I like to think, my priority is to report and comment on the things that are happening and not to engage in magical thinking. But the truth is, I've always been, a short-term pessimist, long-term optimist. Mm-hmm. Israel, I have perfect faith, as we would say in Hebrew, emunah shalema, perfect faith that Israel will survive and thrive and go on with God's help. It survived tough times, difficult allies, unfaithful allies, and people like Barack Obama and Joe Biden. It is being strengthened by the support it gets from Donald Trump and from his government and from the vast majority of the American people. But it will survive. It is still standing. People have been predicting its demise since since the modern state of Israel was reborn in 1948. It's going nowhere. Mm-hmm. The Zionist visionary Zev Jabotinsky wrote 100 years ago that the Jewish people would survive, the Zionist project would thrive through the building of an iron wall that would convince its enemies that it cannot be defeated. That iron wall was shaken on October 7th, but it is still standing. Israel isn't going anywhere. Israel will not be defeated by Hamas, by Iran, by Barack Obama or Joe Biden or all the leftists at all the college campuses in this country or anywhere else in the world. Israel's going nowhere. And its enemies are going to have to learn to live with it. And that's the way it's going to be. And with God's help, that will continue.
Amen to that. Do you think, given all that we talked about, and I only got about a minute left, a big question, but eventually the UN's proven to be useless.
Worse than useless.
Yeah. I mean,
counterproductive. It's the worst. It's exactly the opposite of what its founders envisioned it to be after World War II.
It's actually become an enemy of Israel.
It is an enemy. It's a cesspool of anti-Semitism. It is, along with many other these multilateral global organizations, it's, profoundly anti-Semitic, profoundly anti-American. And I am hopeful that the Trump administration is going to be enacting policies that will ensure that it, if it survives, it's not going to be with American funds. And I hope that President Trump pursues this, because these institutions are fundamentally anti-American, never mind just anti-Israel.
JNS.org. That's Jonathan's website. Stands for the Jewish News Syndicate. JNS.org. There's the picture of the landing page. Very, very resourceful. Jonathan, my friend, thank you for your time. We value it greatly. God bless you. Have a super day.
Great. Thanks very much.
In life, some things just go together, like a burger and fries, and home and auto insurance from State Farm. So make it a combo. Combining your home and auto insurance could save you time and money. And who doesn't like that? Just call State Farm agent Rory Wold and find out how you can